You're on scene.
Also on scene.
75 on scene.
$71. Okay. $75, just stage back there. I don't think I'll need you. I'll let you know here momentarily.
Back to 360.
Can't comment if you don't frame.
Okay, go ahead.
2020.
There are 2 transports and about 4 refusals. Vehicles working on the refusals. Ambulance 71 and ambulance 70 are going to work on the
Mass
transport.
outrage quickly ensued with racial riots engulfing cities throughout the nation. Metropolitan police across the country suddenly found themselves the target of protester and politician alike, as both demanded their defunding and dissolution. City councils and mayors together joined in the protest, advocating their law enforcement responsibilities, allowing the riots to go on largely unabated. In the midst of the ash and destruction, there emerged bands of armed citizens, many of whom were members of patriot militias, standing in the gap, working together with police and law enforcement.
Ambulance 1, 375 North Wall Street at the Pavilion at the bus stop for a female who feels like she's going to pass out. Ambulance 1, 375 North Wall Street at the Pavilion for a female at the bus stop who feels like she's going to pass out. Acknowledge or respond on City Fire 10, page 1219.
Social justice warriors were rioting against. Yet, what the media all too willingly overlook is that the surge in patriotism represents nothing less than the rise of a new political order. One that
Yeah, with subject laying on the sidewalk. Or in South Entrance.
one that is only just beginning.
Prepared for civil war, civil unrest,
K-12, where are you at?
EMP attack from North Korea, Russia, invasion from foreign government, my own government turning its guns against
10-4,
people
1200
in an effort to disarm.
North Entrance Avenue. Do you need an ambulance?
The 3% militia.
100.
They derived their name from the notion that only 3%
Okay, thank you. 100 South Entrance.
fought in the Revolutionary War, but were still able to overwhelm and defeat the British
Ambulance 1 around 375 North Wall.
The 3%ers are part of a massive nationwide militia movement whose membership has been surging for the last decade. Today, there are over 500 militia groups in the United States, more than double the number in 2008. Trailed in the mainstream news media, America's militias hardly resemble racial monolith of white
Info 178 South Entrance.
like the broader gun enthusiast culture.
178 South Entrance. Need an ambulance. 10-4.
And socially diverse coalition of citizens
Highly
united by a
intoxicated.
common concern
You
for
cannot
the
get up.
safety and welfare of their families, their communities, and the nation. Their strong commitment to faith, family, and freedom inescapably connects militias to local communities, connections which included growing alliance with law enforcement. Both national organizations and smaller statewide militias recruit heavily current and former law enforcement.
It could be just one transport now. You know, 71's complete now. Refusal on the other patient. And 14's working on the rest of the refusal. Engine 15's got vehicles secured. Engine 75 can return to quarters.
Swelling, given how leftist lawmakers were so quick to disavow the police.
72, you can go to quarters also.
And rhetoric. As armed militias were known for their outspoken anti-government stance during the Clinton and Obama
Engine 75 is returning.
alliance between law enforcement and
37 return.
caught the mainstream media by surprise. The Washington
Can't
Post
have me
complained
feeling on
police
72
were
in service
refusing to
secretary.
control armed militias.
I'm on 72 in service.
Washington's law enforcement actually welcomed their assistance in response to BLM protests. Some in the media went further, suggesting that militias and law enforcement were becoming indistinguishable. The Guardian ran the rather panicked and sensationalist headline, "White supremacists and militias have infiltrated police." Racist rhetoric and sensationalism aside, think tanks like the Brookings Institute observed that this alliance between patriot militias and law enforcement is resulting in militias playing an increasingly prominent role in American society and politics. From leading protests and demonstrations around COVID-19 restrictions to working together with law enforcement to help protect businesses during the height of BLM protests, militia presence at public events is becoming more and more widespread. Not only are members
Can't come
of militia
Superior 481's in route.
they're also beginning to win elected office, particularly members of the Oath.
South Entrance Avenue.
One of the largest patriot groups in the nation, the Oath Keepers were formed in 2009, and many of their members were indeed current and former police officers as well as military personnel. Today in Hood County, Texas, just outside of Fort Worth, several Oath Keepers hold office, including the town constable.
Ambulance 110.
What's really behind this surge of
And the
patriot militias? This rapprochement between patriots and police actually
Engine 5. This is private. Turnover for city 178 South Entrance Avenue for intoxicated subject unable to stand. PD's unseen. Engine 5. This is private. Turnover for city 178 South Entrance Avenue for intoxicated subject unable to stand. PD's unseen. Acknowledge or respond. City Fire to base 1224.
is one organized around the animosity between the people versus the political class, the ruled versus their rulers, ordinary Americans versus oligarchs. What characterizes populists is a deep-seated suspicion, indeed a radical hostility towards our elite class, our permanent political, corporate, and media elite, who are seen as ruling for their own benefit according to their own values, interests, and concerns, which are
Can't come. Engine 5 will be en route 178 South Entrance. This is Superior.
Populists are united
Okay, have you now?
that the customs, cultures, and traditions that define the people are best preserved when taken out of the hands of the elite and placed back in the hands of ordinary citizens. In 2010, pollsters Scott Rasmussen and Doug Schoen published their study on the burgeoning Tea Party movement entitled Mad as Hell. The authors found substantial data that showed that there was, in fact, a major paradigm shift taking place among
Can't come. You can show Superior 481 on scene 178 South Entrance.
Liberal versus conservative were dying away, and a new political divide between the
Let's see.
people versus the ruling class, the ruled versus the rulers, was emerging. Overseas, comparable dynamics were operative in the victory of Brexit, where more Brits voted to leave the European Union than had ever voted for a political party in Britain's history. And the election of Donald Trump a few months later solidified the fact that this new politics was quite literally changing the worldwide political order. And so, as Democrat city councils were busy throwing law enforcement under the bus, they unknowingly contributed to the political and regional realignment of our nation. As BLM and Antifa radicals began occupying our municipalities and urban areas, armed citizens and law enforcement joined forces in defense of our suburbs and exurbs as part of a new populist uprising. The surge in patriot militias, like the rise of Brexit and Trump, is a further indicator that a new political order is rising in our nation. This political realignment is in effect forming new coalitions, new alliances, where otherwise antithetically hostile groups, such as armed militias and law enforcement, are band together in defense of faith, family, and freedom. The surge in patriot militias signals a surging
Can't come. Engine 5 is on the scene 178 South Entrance.
is only just beginning.
Engine 5 in.
It does appear that patriot militias are indeed here to stay.
Thanks to our military, our allies, and the brave fighters of Afghanistan, the Taliban regime is coming to an end.
By the end of this year, the transition will be.
I'm first thing to call for 1016, one half GOA, 1055 South Myrtle. 1017 advises child's mother broke his windows.
Ridiculous. We're bringing the troops back home from Afghanistan. Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not. But it is happening. The Taliban is taking control of Afghanistan. Currently, as of today, 240 districts the Taliban controls. And there are some contested areas, but Kandahar, the second largest city, has fallen. Herat, Ghazni.
K10, the offender is a Marshawn Harris. She left in a black Nissan Sentra. She lives at 635 East View Drive.
Email 72 engines, 75 quarters. Sorry, no, 72. Okay, got him fish well.
Go ahead.
Ambulance has one. Be back in service.
That's for
Here, transporting shortly. Engine 5 available.
Can't command, channel command.
Channel command.
Yeah, both vehicles secured, he's been turned over to ISP, somebody's gonna transport to the hospital here as soon as they get out. Then terminate command and return.
Terminated.
They would just like a notice of trespass given to him if located.
That one. Take on 528, 10-4.
Can't come 511, I'm right here, did they see a direction of travel?
They did not advise. Came from the Uncle Leo area.
There, I didn't see anybody walking around.
Status.
10-4. He shows in Route Riverside.
This one's been reversed.
Okay.
Engine 5, assist private, Superior Ambulance turnover for city, 1535 and a half South 3rd Avenue for a 43-year-old male having a seizure. Engine 5, assist private, Superior Ambulance turnover for city, 1535 and a half South 3rd Avenue for a 43-year-old male having a seizure. Acknowledge and respond to the city fire, 10 beach 1236.
Or they're waiting to stop them now.
Only 3-8-10-4, responding from urban area.
Superior 43 is going to 1535 and a half South 3rd Avenue.
Can't count ambulance 1 is arrived Riverside.
107.
Can't come, engine 5 en route, 1535 and a half, South 3rd.
Alright, get your 41, checking your status.
CANCOM 481, 10-4 will be transporting to Riverside here shortly.
Okay.
CANCOM 511, I'm in the last room.
CANCOM 528. I'm inside. What's his description again?
Apparently he just walked past you, male white. Base.
Social Security is the only talk to him. Tell me when he's back in.
about one of them.
CANCOM Superior 481.
Go ahead.
41's en route to Riverside with 1.
Okay.
CANCOM 511. Yeah,
Status.
where's that one?
That works. CANCOM 540's 10.
Can you bring in a courtesy notice?
CANCOM Engine 5.
Go
Confirm the address, please. We're not seeing a 1535 and a half south there.
Advising to try 1635 and a half out there.
Message received.
There's call history at that address, 1635.
That's 10 we have that address, 1635 and a half. Superior ambulance responding to this address will be in the alley here. Superior 43 is 10 for 1635 and a half. What's the incident number?
Nine 20987.
You can have the time of call.
Oh, 32.
Leanna Cortez at Hippocrates Medical Clinic, 606 East Court Street. She needs 1043 in reference to an order of protection she got on yesterday. Okay, 10, go ahead.
Just go and get the signed complaint for criminal damage to property. Can I have the incident number, please, as my computer still won't turn on.
You just remind me of my full name.
44 674. 44674.
Well, getting the fact sheet completed and, take it slow.
Can't count Caleb. Caleb is on scene. Hank Umbrella 10-4.
Hey, Tom Bradley, 10-4.
Got 541 minutes.
Yeah, Tom Bradley, 4050.
Hank Superior 43 is on scene.
43 is on scene.
$25.72. 125.72 now.
10-4.
Five 4029 square. He's got a revoke 27.
Down to 11 up back, please. Can't come 540. What's this address show?
Anyway, Can come. $538. You have a 1017 in the lobby. Justin Jacobs there to re-register.
Temple, I'm not in the office right now. I'll get this thing with you.
10-4. The 27 address from 1997 is showing 19023 Italia Post Road in Marion, Illinois.
Say it one more time, 19023.
It states that the subject on the scene has not yet been served an order of protection. She'll be in a red minivan.
Temple. South Robo.
Like they were supposed to win the gold medal. But you know the word woke means loser. If you're woke, you're going to lose.
520.
We're not going to let woke make this country.
Try to attach you to a custody dispute. I believe it's not in progress. Caller just wants some information reference child issues.
All odds with what they have to put up with on that team.
In March, he said that if the investigation confirms the allegations against Governor Cuomo, then he should resign. So will you now call on him to resign, given the investigators said the 11 women were
Yeah, Bradley 46 of those.
A year ago, we was among
10-40.
who said Biden had touched him in a pocket and not. Hey, it's Danielle here at 4 Patriots. Some really great news. Our all-time
Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dax's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you want to support the show in a different way, you can go to markougalines.com/VPN.
And Tom ambulance one available.
Lisa is a former military analyst, lived through a whole lot. Absolutely amazing person. So let's talk to Lisa about this. So Lisa, I reached out to you to talk to you about the video that we put out. It's recently, in fact, Dex, could you give me a link to the video? It's upwards of 300,000, 350,000 views since yesterday morning. And there's a reason. Everybody is talking about this WEAS alert, and I talked about it. And I was basically saying that I thought maybe we should turn off our phones. But in a way, I was incorrect, wasn't I?
Well, hello, Mark, and hey, Frugal fam. Yes. I thoroughly appreciate your openness to potentially being corrected, and here's where I'm going to go with that.
Can't come in from 5.
Somewhat near my age to remember those older kids.
Can't come. Spirit 43, patient loaded, care in progress. We're transporting to Mary shortly.
Okay, engine 5
Patient care, engine 5 is available.
Turning off your phone isn't going to prevent anything. So if there's something that you're concerned about being pushed onto your phone, as that actually is a reasonable fear, really the only way you're going to stop something like that has nothing to do with whether or not your phone is on or off. The only thing that I can think of is like a Faraday cage, right? Because you're going to have power that connects to your phone no matter what. If you've ever had your phone off, or you have an alarm set up, and for some reason your phone wakes up at 7 a.m. just to make sure you know that alarm is going to go on, they can access and push stuff on your phone, even with this EAS system, regardless of whether or not it's on or off.
So here's one thing that a lot of people said on that video. a lot of people said, nothing happened, see, ha, ha, ha. But what they don't realize is, I don't understand what people thought was going to happen. Did you think that your phone was going to literally blow up? Like, did you think it was going to heat up and then, destroy you, or a hand would reach out? If anything was to happen,
Can't come in, ambulance, somebody's out at Riverside.
Again, one thing, you kind of looked at the video and you reached out to a couple of people. Do you want to just kind of talk about, after you saw that video, what you
so
thought?
Let's start with this. Right? I saw the video. You're right to be concerned, but there's also kind of a lot more to this, right? And anything that involves our government is going to be highly bureaucratic and convoluted. So first and foremost, let's call it LaFem, the FEMA, that is part of the Department of Homeland Security, right? So a lot of things are going to be cloaked in this conceptual benevolence of only the positive side of the double-edged sword. And so we'll look at this as, the WEA or EAS or these tests and these systems being put together. Essentially, what they're trying to say is that this stuff is going to happen so that we can access people in emergencies, whether it's the number one that they talk about. The second thing that they'll talk about is, essentially late 70s, when we first started developing the access to call 911, it was tied to a landline phone, and that landline phone is going to be tied to a name and an address so that they could triangulate your location to bring you whatever emergency assistance they needed at the time. Well, as technology has advanced,
Look up energy
they
status.
don't necessarily have an address tied to them. And so there's a bunch of updates that went into part of what this test was about. And there's some paperwork that if people really want to go through, they can kind of find it. There's a lot through the FEMA website, and there's even a lot that's through the Department of Homeland Security. There's three main things that change, though, right? So you have a software system update that's going to connect to all of these different sites or locations that are just outliers that will push information out. Right, and those are not all government owned. Some of those are private entities, but they needed to update everything. So for any of these additional entities to get grants or money from, the FEM or whatever, they have to keep up with all of that. So they have to be able to push it up for that. The next thing is they change the size of the information that they can send out. So normally it was up into about 90 characters. I believe it's around 360 characters now, which now includes video, it includes pictures, it includes, this is now full access to interrupt whatever, for whatever they dictate or constitute as an emergency in order to access every person with the phone. Now, I know that you mentioned earlier with regards to burner phones, and here's especially something I was talking to a couple of my contacts about. They're going to have all of that stuff enabled. And it's going to be, again, cloaked in this benevolent sort of supportive idea that if something happens, and you have an emergency situation, you want them to be able to track you down geographically so that they can offer whatever support and assistance you need. Well, it's a little more than just that.
Okay.
Again, everything's going to be a double-edged sword, right? So there's that supportive aspect, but essentially it's almost like you're bringing an informant with you.
137 on scene. Standing by.
Like roll up to Walmart and be like, hey, I need one of those little Vodafones or whatever. It's already going to have that stuff enabled. With that in mind, right, there's a recent lawsuit that just came out, a week ago. It was the 2nd of August. And it's against Alejandro Mayorkas, right? This is our DHS fella. And it's with regards to an emergency situation. You might call it a crisis. I would say, it's one of those southern things, especially in Texas. And for May and June, right? And you'll find all of this in this lawsuit if you decide to look it up. It's up to anybody else. But May and June, you had 180,000 persons that decided to, Red Rover, send these persons right over. And June was 188,000. The estimates for July are around 210,000, right? So you're looking at essentially more than 500,000 people And that would definitely constitute an emergency, at least in my book. And with these people relocating into our glorious nation, there's going to be communication that's going to need to happen. And one of the ways that you can really address that emergency, right, is through updating and tracking things and making sure all the software is updated so that you can track, you know, far more narrow of a triangulation than you would. One of the other things that this update included is it now
Due to the fan notice, she's with fire right now. I'll be 10-8 with the scene in the call.
There's no guarantee that you'll actually get a message, right? Much like that whole issue that we had recently with Pegasus, this is not a user-dependent sort of thing that would happen. You don't have to open up, you know, an email or click on
20988, 20988.
is going to be regardless of your interaction with it.
There's no change on the user end. All these
Number's
people
going to go
say,
to 706.
nothing happened. Oh, yeah, you go full of it. And nothing
Mother's
happened.
been advised that children
You
have
cannot
time.
say that. And actually, all the towers sent this out. You just didn't have anything happen on your phone. You actually proved my point by saying that we don't know what could have happened. We're asking the question and telling you that this is a possibility. My mistake, though, was I should have told people to put it in an EDEC bag or something like an EDEC or a Faraday bag, because they could access it anyways. As far as people kept saying, oh, well, they can access your phone anytime, again, yeah, they can. But to do it to the entire country all at once, that's a whole different story. And, you know, as far as you said that they could, but again, the cell phone companies, wouldn't they be asking questions why they would be doing that? I mean, doesn't that kind of pop up too?
I didn't think it would work at first, but I'm getting freak ass today. U.S. drivers with no recent accidents or DUI can get this card for free. That's $700
taking one ALS to St. Mary's.
towards gas,
43 to St. Mary's.
repairs, service, oil changes, and my auto insurance. Drivers on your side have partnered up to bring this free program to responsible drivers. Click the Drive Safe button below this video to enroll and get yours at no cost. All I did was go online, check my zip code to ensure I had no accidents or DUIs. The cards are available on a first-come, first-served basis until we run out of cards. So click the Drive Safe button below this video to have yours sent for free.
My friend used to pay $163 for car insurance. Now look at how much he pays. $28. Most insurance companies are ripping us off. They don't want us to know that there's an easier way to get cheaper insurance. All you have to do is go here and get a quote in under 2 minutes. And if you've overpaid in the past, they'll even refund your money. You just put in your information and then it compares all the different insurance companies to make sure that you get the best rate. Plus, it includes state discounts, which other insurance companies don't do. And it's all to help you get the best rate. So this is how the bill went to $28 a month for car insurance. It makes no sense.
So you would think so. Issues and why they kind of changed a lot of these directives. And these directives started changing.
Howard Juvenile 448.5 South Center.
The 30th of March in 2000.
Caller advised he found a 4-year-old male black subject, no shoes, walking up and down the alley.
In position at that time, and in very specific terms, right, what they're talking about is ways to assist communities affected by an incident. Now, that incident can cover all sorts of things down to just national interest, right? So with that being the case, you're going to see a lot of things now, much like this recent, you know, budgetary piece of legislation that went through the Senate yesterday. That is a very loose term for what they're talking about. So even through like FEMA's NEMS incident guide, the way that they describe what is considered part of any sort of like emergency sort of situation.
37.
Sometimes that's just things that are
Negative.
that reference political sensitivity, or things that might be, you know, a threat like life, limb, or eyesight. Sometimes things that are just weather. Sometimes it's going to be things with regards to agency policies. So 2 codices ago, they started changing the rules for what was applicable, and any cell company or private communications company, and this is kind of where the FCC had to partner with them in order to really establish this test and kind of make it a joint effort, is any sort of grant or governmental support that is going to coincide with their needs in the future are now dependent on their participation.
Okay,
So
all
there's
37.
overreach with this stuff, and you'll find that like recent 2018, 2019, there have been court cases. I think the most recent one was in Maine, and in this court case, they talk about how it's a breach of liberty and privacy for, you know, American citizens.
Okay, 10, all
And
37.
that's where that lofty goal of the greater good kind of comes into play. So if they want help, if they want support in the future, if they want access to, you know, certain areas in order to set things up, or I lived in Utah at the time that we had the Olympics, the Winter Olympics in 2002, right? We had just crazy construction that happened for years and years before everything was even going to take off. But in order for different communication companies to be able to have access to where some of these events were taking place, they had to have approval, because some of that is going to be Bureau of Land Management access that they have to go through, and that's a federal entity. And if you're not on their, you know, good list, they're not going to help you out. So it becomes this back and forth thing of, you know, you scratch our back and we'll scratch yours. So they're doing their best to mind their P's and Q's, because liberties are going up and they're just being taken away from us as quickly as you can even imagine. So that thing that happened about a week or so ago with regards to Apple and iPhone, right? Again, this token benevolence and being supported.
I have a call pending for removal at Meyer. Male and 3 juveniles bothering other customers in the grocery side.
And yes, we're looking for CPs. However, you have a lot of people that got kicked off and said that's an infringement of my rights.
Can't count 528, look at that.
Privacy and my liberty.
528.
As a result of this, right, I don't know if I want to have Apple products anymore. I don't think you guys have the right to do that. And anybody who talks out or speaks out against it, they say, oh, well, you mean you support Bluetooth? You support this type of like abuse or whatever? And it's not a black and white sort of thing. There's a lot of gray area in this. And that's really where the big problems lie. And so you have to kind of go through and think through all of this bureaucratic baloney just to even see what's really going on. So once you get through the FEM and all of the, you know, DHS stuff, then you get into NIMS, right? And it's the National Integrated, it's an incident reporting system, right? And they start talking about what their goals are, what, you know, their purpose is, and what direction they're taking. In the very second paragraph from the they talk about stakeholders, right? Now, why would a government organization be concerned with reporting to stakeholders? And according to, you know, them, they define that as anyone who has or thinks that they might have a personal interest in the outcome of any policy. So these software updates, these tests, these changes with how things are going to interact, you know, with regards to EAS or WEA or whatever, is applicable to stakeholders.
So, again,
And so it's very convoluted. You don't see everything. And there's no real way to just off the top of your head protect yourself from stuff unless you're actively making the effort to have a fair readout. Make sure you're using
Can't count 528 on that Meyer.
any sort of like spyware, you need to in order to get it off of there. So because there's nothing that you can do to pull it out.
Lisa, so, just so everybody
Can't count that you only doing 70 on the return.
Yeah,
70 on the return.
There's so much information WAS, this
189 North Quincy now with the Dallas Field.
Do you need another unit?
Thank you.
Pepper.
I do have one by name.
Second. 520, go ahead.
Last name Jackson. First name Matt. 83 of 88. Unknown no.
Number 46 will be out at Riverside. 446 at Riverside.
Take up 528.
28.
Court security gonna come out, tell them to leave. Take up 540, I'm 23.
40, 10-4. 28, I will give him a call. I 28, he's on his way. Five 20. Max has got a no valid Illinois license with an address out of Pembroke.
Okay.
Careful. Thank
The
you.
easiest way for me to explain it is I was a cryptologic linguist. So anything with regard to
Is he on the premise with you, or is that the other subject from your custody issue?
SIGIN.
Yeah, he's the other subject. He's either in Pembroke or Chicago or in between.
Alright, he has also got a 99 Kankakee County for suspended revoked license.
With which to analogize this. Okay? When we came up with the automobile, we realized that we were changing transportation forever. What we didn't realize is that we were changing the layout of cities and how cities and municipalities are laid out, because you no longer have to live within like horseback or walking distance of, a store, a home, a business, whatever. We had adapted to a point where now you
137, we got 10-4 over there.
So that invention had to solve a problem that people might not notice. Like the invention of the internet, we didn't realize what that would do to the music industry and downloading music and things like that.
Completed.
Consequence
Take
that
it.
is going to come rearing its ugly head and you can't take it back. And with liberties and your freedoms, as any of us have seen since the 11th day of September 20 years ago, once those freedoms get taken, I have yet to
Myself
see them
and
given back.
Hey, Tanner, give me 10-6 on a shift detail.
As a group, stand up against the loss of our liberties. I get that it's well intentioned, and I don't claim to be like the end all political person about everything. We have to all work together with information and with
I'll be 10-6.
everybody being informed so that we can prevent that overreach, that tyrannical, possibility in the future, so that we are all aware and all actively participating because of our own choices into what's going on. Sorry, that was too long.
No, that was perfect, Lisa. Again, I think the whole, this whole
1900 South Schuyler, between River Road and Shapiro. Caller advisor, the gas can in the middle of the roadway possibly leaking no
What
further.
comes next, they're making big moves. If you haven't noticed in the last 2 years, there is a lot of big things that are happening right now. If you didn't follow that event, the cyber event that's been going on for 3 days, then you have no idea what's going on in the world. If you are following this and you realize everything is falling, pieces are falling together, and there are big people listening, there is about to be one half versus one half, and it's about to get real. So people need to prep. That's our main point here. People need to get their stuff going. Lisa, thank you so much for calling in tonight. I appreciate you. Again, we've got so many new people that don't really know how chat works. We've got chat with us. Thank you.
40 checking your status.
I appreciate you. I want to have you back on the show. I really love having you here. Okay?
28511 your status.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for calling me. Take care. Have a good night. All
right, thank you.
20 man.
Again, very amazing.
10-4.
Thank you so much, and thank you for correcting me, Lisa. I appreciate that. I made mistakes, and if I make mistakes or if I say something wrong, I'll correct it. What I'm not going to correct, though, is that I do believe that I think there's something there. I'm still going to ask questions, and I think everybody should too. Question everything. Question me. Question anybody that says anything. Don't ever listen to just a YouTuber, one of us and all of us. Even if we're all 5, 10, 20 of us are on the same team. Just make sure to go with your gut. And my gut, I'm just telling you what my gut says. And with the knowledgeable people around me, I 100%, I know in my heart we are going to conflict with one or multiple countries very soon. And if that doesn't, there's not a thing in my mind that says it's not going to happen. I don't even think anymore like it's a matter of when or if. I think it will happen inside 2 years. And that's because after talking to somebody who was in the know, and then talking to another.
Can you go by 20, what's the CAD number?
Your number is 20991. 20991.
I'm not going to change my view because I don't think that would help the public, and I don't think it would help anybody. All right, and then before we leave you, again, I highly, highly recommend, if you do not know, we have talked about this, we've talked about the threats to our electrical grid here in the United States and abroad. If you are here right now, I would highly, highly recommend you go over to EMP Field and check them out. Again, this is a company that is actually working with DOD, Security, DOD, Department of Defense, and of course the DEMSO team helping protect the military.
Deal cut out, what was that?
If there's an address local for Kiana, Houston, I'm not sure how to spell Kiana, maybe Kiyaana.
Yeah, I already looked. I'll keep looking.
Just like we did 100 years ago, it's overdue. That is guaranteed to happen. It's in a matter of when, not if. If you don't want your devices fried, you would definitely want to go look at this. There's models for your car, there's models for your RV, your house, your generators, your solar system, and even a model for a ham radio. The car model takes about 5 minutes to put in. It's literally that easy. Again, go to markforthenews.com/EMP. A small commission goes to us after you get a $50 huge discount that stacks on top of any sale you're doing. So it helps both of us. It helps us as an independent media, and it helps you as a consumer. So thank you so much for everybody that has already protected themselves.
Yeah, I'm not finding anything within your area. Does he know his grandparents' name?
Yeah, I believe everybody will find that out very soon.
Still trying to figure it out, he's 4.
Yes.
One's in here checking.
Welcome to Life Out Here. At Tractor Supply, we have everything you need to make the most of it. With over 1,900 stores near you, our team members are ready to help you get everything for your life out here. Get started at TractorSupply.com.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson. Of the nearly 200 different countries in which it is precisely one of them has an elected leader who publicly identifies as a Western-style conservative. His name is Viktor Orban. He's the Prime Minister of Hungary. Hungary is a small country in the middle of Central Europe. It has no navy, it has no nuclear weapons. Its GDP is smaller than New York State's. So you wouldn't think leaders in Washington would pay a lot of attention to Hungary, but they do, obsessively. By rejecting the tenets of neoliberalism, Viktor Orban has personally offended and invaded. What does Viktor Orban believe? Years ago, his views were admirable and conventional. He thinks families are more important than banks, and these countries need borders. For saying these things out loud, Orban has been vilified. Left-wing NGOs have denounced him as a fascist, destroyer of democracy. Last fall, Joe Biden suggested he's a totalitarian dictator. Official Washington despises Viktor Orban so thoroughly
Clear here, heading over to
that
the
neocons in and around the State Department are backing the anti-Semites who are running against him in next year's elections in November. We've watched all of this in the United States, and we've wondered if what we've heard could be true. So this week, we came to Hungary to see for ourselves. We sat down with Orban for a couple of long conversations, including one this morning. And we'll show you some of that so you can make up your own mind about it. But first, a word about Hungary. Even if you understand that the American news media lie, it is always bewildering to see the extent of their design. Nothing compared to this. We've read many times how repressive Freedom House, an NGO in Washington, supported almost exclusively by the U.S. government, describes Hungary as much less free than South Africa.
DPW can bring some oil dry in the middle of the road, almost to River Road.
In fact, if you look at the United States, it is bitter to see the contrast between, say, Budapest and New York City. Let's say you lived in a big American city and you decided to loudly and publicly attack Joe Biden's policies. His policies on immigration, or COVID, or transgender athletes. If you kept talking like that, you would likely be silenced by Joe Biden's allies in Silicon Valley. If you kept it up, you might very well have to hire armed bodyguards. That's common in the U.S. Ask around. But it's unknown in Hungary. Opposition figures here don't worry that they will be hurt for their opinions. Neither, by the way, is the Prime Minister. Orban regularly bribes himself with no security. So who's freer? In what country are you more likely to lose your job for disagreeing with the neo-classical orthodoxy? The answer is pretty obvious, but for Americans, it's painful to admit that we would discover. With that, here's Viktor Orban. His accent's pretty thick, but his English is precise. He's worth hearing. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you very much. So in 2015, hundreds of thousands of migrants appear on your southern border. They appear all over Europe. They stream into Germany. The rest of the EU says, welcome, please come. We can handle it. We're strong enough. Hungary stands alone in saying no. Why? Why did you take a different position on migration from other Europeans?
All stations, I make fire alarm, Miller Rehab, 1601 Butterfield Trail. All stations, I make fire alarm, 1601 Butterfield Trail, Miller Rehab, acknowledge or respond. City Fire, 10H 1323.
If you would like to cross or you would like to come, there's a legal procedure. You have to do it. You can't cross, without any kind of limitation, permission, and any contribution and control of the Hungarian state. It's dangerous. You have to defend your people against
about 6 feet wide.
And you think you have the right to do that. It's coming from the God.
For 6 feet wide, I copy different.
Because this is our country. This is our population. This is our history. This is our language. So we have to
Go ahead.
Of course, if you are in trouble and there is nobody
Show me your out, Miller Rehab.
to you than the Hungarians, you have to be up.
Okay, Garbage, I have you now, 1601 Butterfield Trail.
It's a nice country. I would like to come here and do this here because it's a nice right. This is not a human right to come in. No way, because it's our land. It's a nation, it's a community, family, history.
I have you now.
Saying what she just said, which I think will seem obvious to a lot of our viewers, was very offensive
137,
to a lot of countries in Western Europe. To their
Because the many European countries decided to open a new chapter of their own history.
This information we do call protocol words. They advised it would be IDOT area.
Which is a post-Christian, post-national society. They believe
Different
different communities
4 name is Pure Golden Milk.
Number of, let's say, Muslim communities and the original inhabitants,
Speed it up.
say, Christian communities.
We'll give them a call.
The outcome of this will be good. There is no answer whether it will be good.
Hospital rehab.
But I think it's very risky.
So,
The chance that it will be not good, but it will be very risky.
Animals running around.
And each nation has the right to
That's one.
take this or to reject it. We Hungarians decided not to take that risk to live the whole society. That's the reason why they attacked Hungary so hard, and that's the reason why my personal reputation is very bad. You know, I'm treated like the black sheep of the European Union personally, and sometimes Hungary as well.
45-28.
In 6 years, since Germany, since our
Go
government
ahead.
made the decision to let many hundreds of thousands of migrants.
There's a juvenile that usually gets away over by, it's like 395 South Grand, the White House on the west side of the street.
Bad behavior, but it was their decision. They took
Step
those,
one.
and now they got what they have.
Can't come 511. I'm off
I
with it.
would not like to make any category to describe what was the outcome of their decision. I only insist on that the Hungarians has the right to make our own choice. You first became famous in the late 80s as a student.
But I'm speaking to some neighbors. He's saying that he lives upstairs in the alley or not trying to get an address.
The U.S. government is on your side, you're on the side of the U.S. So 30 years later, Joe Biden,
Large one-story nursing facility, enough to show him from two sides. Car 5 Butterfield Command. Good.
alright, you're on scene. Yes, ma'am.
Jack, I'm Engine 5's on the scene. Car 5 will be on the Sojourn side.
It's a bewildering for you to see the change, and how do you respond to that characteristic?
So first of all, the reaction of that kind of opinion here in Hungary is always not very polite. Who is the guy?
K21, I called IDOT. Got their voicemail.
But anyway, somebody who does not speak our
You
language
just let us page on fire.
has a very limited knowledge on Hungary, even in the recent several decades of our life. Don't understanding us completely. Having an opinion like that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it the same way.
Not because he is the president of the United States. We have to be very modest. We have to be very respectful, and we have to make a lot of things to clarify that what he is doing is rather pathetic. We try to do that in a polite way because we respect.
Jack, I'm left 10-4. I have to wash down or something.
We would not like to destroy our relationship because the bilateral relationship with the Americans is basically very good. We are cooperating well on the field of defense as NATO allies. Economic cooperation is excellent. Here, trade is going very well. Your business
Units.
is,
Can one of your engines break free and go to a washdown at 1900 South Skyler?
224, I'm sorry. She's taking me there now to check and confirm.
Because the American-Hungarian
Stand by, King.
even if the Americans don't
5, what was that report?
Speaking with an administrator now, stating faulty detector and it's 224. Going to check and confirm now.
Message received. Can't come from Carson.
Why would you say, and not just you, by the way,
Yeah, we can divert engine 4 down to that washdown if you'd like. Remaining units can continue into Miller.
what is going on in Central Europe?
To feel my best means taking my best. The best help solutions.
Engine 4, still on for a washdown, 1900 South Skylar Avenue for a washdown. PD's on scene. Engine 4, 1900 South Skylar Avenue for a washdown. PD's on scene. Acknowledge a response. City Fire Temperature 1328. Engine 4, there was a gas can that had spilled a large amount of gas. DPW was going to bring dry sand.
Economically, politically, culturally, even in demography, we have some success, family policy. So,
Okay, yeah, keep them around. Another.
success story.
Okay, my partner's updating me. She's advising it was at IDOT area. They're not answering the phone, so Item 6 requested you guys to come for a washdown.
So the Western liberal,
Chevy utility no license return.
that inside the Western civilization, there's a conservative
Temple, male half will be leaving in that vehicle.
of everyday life, they love it. Then the liberal ones. That's the reason why they criticize us. They are fighting for themselves, not against us. But we are an
24.
example,
Maintenance already on scene. All units to return.
which is based on traditional values, on national identity,
Must receive.
based
Tank up, first.
on Christianity.
All units with the exception of engine 5 are going to be in service and available.
It's interesting as an American to see this show the
Temple.
the American media, Biden administration, State Department is opposed to you because they say that you're totalitarian thug. Your opponents are a coalition of former communists and anti-Semites. Is it strange to see the American left rooting for a coalition that includes anti-Semites?
Yeah, let's say if you would have asked me several
March
years ago that it could happen that the ex-communist political forces and the anti-Semite right is forming a coalition and running together at the election against the pro-Israeli and pro-American, pro-NATO, Western-oriented government that
Well,
we have, as we are. my
Ian was issued their event.
But now the
10-4.
international community is upset. I understand that here in Hungary, the political parties would like to get power as soon as they can. Therefore, they try to make a broad coalition against. But to be accepted that, by the international community so easily, especially the behavior of America is totally new.
Are you rechecking your status?
Hungary is moving in a completely different direction from the rest of the continent and the rest of the Western world.
6 okay?
Do you think that 20 years from now, that will be an unbridgeable divide? I mean, what is that?
Let's describe how I see it. What I see that in the Central European countries, the countries suffered the most because of the Soviet occupation and communist dictatorship. So in these countries, my approach or the Hungarian approach is very popular. Probably we have a majority in Poland of that society. Not only in Poland and Hungary. They are more moderate, the others are more moderate, but if you understand what they are doing, what are the fundamentals and their motivations, is basically belonging to the same political family.
Can't get 137.
In the Western society, there is a lot of people, millions and millions of people, who disagree.
I'm going to be clear. County served them. Grab belongings. He's on his way.
Which is against the family or not respecting the family, which is more based on migration, which is more open society, which is more welfare, and so on and so forth. So I don't say that the political competition is over in the Western European society. So I see chances, and the key country is Italy at this moment, where the fight and the competition is very open. So I can see chances in the Western countries also that they are able to change their policy from liberal to conservative, or from liberal leftist to Christian Democrats. The chance is there, but we are not internationally well organized. So the forthcoming years are really exciting.
I've noticed in the last few nights in Budapest, I've run into a number of Americans who have come here.
Car 6 Kingdom.
They want to be around people who
Go ahead.
agree with them, who agree with you. You see Budapest.
I was on 911. Are all units clear from Butterfield or just Engine 5?
The capital of that kind of thinking was one of the capitals because
Engine 5 remained on the scene, I believe. All the rest of the units will be clear.
And that's my error. I switched it up.
No problem.
That countries, so that kind of networks are getting closer to each other, expecting the real, more and more, real Central European network. But not only thinkers. Ordinary citizens, average citizens, are moving to Central European countries.
A black no shirt, female black, described as wearing a brown top, black shorts. Northbound in the alley near by the car wash area.
That Western Europe is not secure enough. The future is unstable.
security is not provided, and the ideological direction of the country, so the basic values of the country is built on is changing not to their taste or their intention. They are looking for other places. So if you go to the Hungarian countryside, you can find West European families who move to Hungary. First, to have the second house because inside European Union we have a free movement.
Ambulance, come back in.
Have you seen this fancy roofing product that lowers energy bills without solar panels or batteries? Hey guys, welcome to Liberal Hi-Fi, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. CNN is supposedly the most trusted news and most trusted news. So trusted, in fact, that they fabricate a story, outright lie to you, create a fake scenario with a fake mom expecting to get away with it, as if the internet wouldn't figure it out honestly immediately. And to make matters even worse, use this fake mom fake software to raise over $230,000 in a push to promote Joe Biden's unconstitutional, illegal extension of the eviction moratorium. Like I always tell you guys, CNN is not news. The left-wing media is not news. It's a propaganda outlet, an extension of the federal government. Of course, the federal government is democratic, or an extension of the Democratic establishment. See the Democratic National Committee. I mean, really.
Faulty detector in room 224. Maintenance is replaced the detector and reset the alarm. System's back in service. Engine 5 is available. It's critical.
Seven.
Go ahead.
We have two calls pending. One is a lockout, and the other one is a welfare check at 396 North Harrison. 60-year-old female Constance Lee is making threats to the caller of the phone that she wants to harm herself and cut herself.
Can't come in. I don't see that vehicle anywhere near here. 13 Fusil with 11-8. 10-4, sir.
This is what they were promoting. They created a fake family, aired it to millions of viewers, used it as a justification.
Bad 6, do we have a 1017 that we're speaking with from this people call?
That raised $230,000 as if this mother with 3 children and her
The call was anonymous.
Joe Biden was their only hope.
Okay, we'll be 10-8 till further. Where's the lock on it?
CNN's Nick Watt interviewed
Chicano
last week and discussed the recent
over Riverstone.
moratorium. CNN's Chiron proclaimed mom breaks
Good broad down there.
eviction. As Watt said, Kelly and 3 children he referred to as
First, I give you her description in a moment.
homeless following Kelly losing her job because she can no longer afford childcare due to the food pandemic. Watt told his viewers that Dasha Kelly started to try and cover that rent, $2,000.
Jeff.
She says she'll be praying for a miracle, hoping for a
Clearing the courthouse. Leaving. I don't have down there.
people to fundraise hundreds of thousands of dollars based on a lie. I mean, that's got to be illegal.
Yeah, you probably had down there. If I got 2 of them, I'll check.
The idea that this individual could end up homeless after she lost her job. There are 10 million job vacancies across the country. Job openings hit record high with 10.1 million. Market signs everywhere. And these companies that are offering jobs and offering people are even creating hiring incentives, extra pay, extra benefits. Target is now paying for your
Okay, come 13, I'm 23 in here.
program. But we're supposed to believe that people are just going to end up homeless without the government's help when there's literal work everywhere. It's
13-10-4.
unbelievable, not just in the colloquial sense. It's literally not believable. It's a lie. It's a fraud. Another grip to live off the taxpayers, to live off the government, instead of being a hard-working member of society. In this case, she's not even a mother. And you know what's really interesting? It kind of brings us full circle to what we say about the Democrats all the time. They spoke about hate crimes, but every single example of a hate crime over the last couple of years when it comes to Democrats has been a hoax. They've had to fake them. They've had to fabricate.
812, my partner's taking a call in reference to
In this case,
reference to a theft that occurred at T-Mobile at 503 Riverstone Parkway. He advised a couple came in, took a Apple Watch, I believe, and got into a green Grand Prix, left westbound, going towards Riverstone Court.
As a hobo, but Corey Bush having weeks to prepare. You're telling me couldn't find a legitimate family and had to find a random individual to play fake mom with 3 children, and then they even had the audacity to start a GoFundMe campaign to defraud the American people using CNN as a conduit. I mean, you gotta be kidding me. The network even brought Kelly and 3 children back for a follow-up interview with Representative Corey Bush after the Biden administration announced the CDC's new ban on evictions. Bush said, "This is the least that we can
Female Hispanic and a male Hispanic.
You get to stay in the safety and comfort of your home while we work on other things to make sure that your life and the lives of other children are better." Another con using this little fabricated scenario that they created to make it seem as if Corey Bush is actually doing something and making people's lives better.
They think the car come past that way.
For one individual, and then you're really stretching no one, pretending as if you're doing something for the country itself. We all
Yeah, I got other cars moving.
hasn't passed a single piece of legislation. AOC's been there for going on 4 years. Not one piece of
Can't come out of the six. I'm southbound on Skylar on 10-4.
10-4.
Even get her legislation on the floor to be voted on. These people have done nothing. Far left Marxist Democrats.
Can't get 21 on clear.
Self-serving,
Wait.
pushing ridiculous
Pick up the roadway.
Twitter clout.
10-4, there was a retail theft at T-Mobile on Riverstone. The offenders, the male Hispanic, female Hispanic, left in a green Grand Prix. Last seen headed towards Skyler on Riverstone.
10-4. Checking.
20-year status.
520-10-4, I'm about ready to quit.
Exactly what it's about. It's not about ending racism. It's about enabling their push for power. If they lower the voting age to 16 in federal elections, who do you
No
think
problem here. I'm speaking with Johnson.
far left progressives who take advantage of a naive mind and have complete control over brainwashing through the curriculum, younger education, and higher education. And of course, they're aiming to put more Marxists in
Can't count 5-20.
power. It's not about racism. Voter ID was never about racism. Lowering the voting age to 16.
I think we came up with a solution now. It's gonna take a little bit, but they're bringing the child back to her. I gave her the incident number in case they're not back in a couple hours. I'll do a report.
You need life experience. You need to pay taxes. You need to understand how the system works. This idea
MS1, Citadel, 900 West River Place, room 116 for unresponsive but breathing patient. MS1, 900 West River Place, Citadel, room 116 for an unresponsive but breathing patient. Acknowledge your respond on City Fire Come page 1342.
It's an actual plot. It's a sinister plot. To start a Marxist revolution, the likes of which the West has never seen. They're not crazy. They know exactly what they're doing. And that's the scariest part. Oh, and just the cherry on top for today's video, the epitome of Marxists have lost their mind. Marxist Oregon governor signs law allowing students to graduate without proof that they can read, write, or do math. The military is going to hell in a handbasket as China ramps up and gets more aggressive than ever. And now the Marxist plan to compete on the academic stage is to not even require proof of literacy, ability to write or do math.
Tom, ambulance one en route. Can you start engine 6, please?
Need to be as far away as humanly possible from any semblance, from any sense of government power. They're about to drive the Western world off a cliff. You really gotta
Movie 10A, she's 10-4. She's speaking with somebody from church. Getting some help.
You guys, if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like, a comment, subscribe, share the video as much as possible. We're still shadow banned.
City Fire Come page 1343.
Jack, how many 6 North Citadel?
Are you going to add a narrative?
Jake, I'm 65 on scene. 2 seconds.
65 you're on scene. Six.
I'm 23 at that lockout. That green vehicle didn't come my way, so I'm assuming when I'm 57 or.
Okay.
No matter what happens to the global climate, Obama will be safe on market for you, even if you continue to escape from the air pollution both of the Ever since it became the subject, Obama did downplay the size and object of the planet. He also did not mention hundreds of servants in Sweden. The parliament insurance did nothing at all when something came to the roof on the coast of Venezuela. No resemblance. Barack Obama's parliament is nearly an intimate gathering of folks standing up in front of it. The media has attacked him on what? Acting on his photograph. Barack Obama has a awful lot of very close friends. What's interesting is who they are. They're not.
Yeah, people.
Next one, considering that Joe Biden and Barack Obama are like brothers. As close as two straight men can be, Joe Biden has told us himself many times. If you're watching something, you're going to think Barack Obama has never moved. He's never said a lot about liking Joe Biden. And he doesn't. So who does Barack Obama like? Or in a word, celebrity. Obama likes celebrities. Lots and lots of celebrities. It's like the red carpet scene outside the National Awards show. There's Oprah and Jay-Z, Bruce Lee, Tom Hanks, George Clooney, as well as a whole bunch of other people who you wouldn't recognize if they're over 30 and don't live on social media. There are a ton of them. And it's not a surprise to see it because Barack Obama isn't human.
Hey, everyone's fun on food.
Alright, Amazon gets in speeding 900 West River Place. It's room 116 bed A.
Agent 6 off. Being service people.
Remember that this is the man who staffed the country with black music, totally without sarcasm. So when you're parting the waters and hearing this, you don't get too hung up on the usual fashion regulations, or for that matter, on
Can't come 540.
there's a global pandemic out there. You need to think about it. There's something worse. Cities and towns.
He ended up sneaking out of the house when the babysitter fell asleep. He's back with his guardian now. I'll be 10A from here with a report, to the TD to notify DCFS.
Oh,
We should not be allowed to go to dinner, airplanes, have a job without first responding to vaccine passport. And Barack Obama supports all of this. He's for all those things. And that does not mean he wants to admit it.
M6.
10-8 lockout, that's our.
Okay.
Unlike their kids, they didn't have to wear masks. It was like 2019 at Barack Obama's house. Like the whole pandemic thing never happened. The question is Fauci and also is he okay with it? That's a classic public health question. I didn't call for him to find out. Unfortunately, he's not going to show us too busy.
Can't come 540. I'll 3 by in.
To determine what the new rules are, we're just going to have to go from the when large groups of massive
Last name Castillo, Castilloo. First name Rosa, ROSA. I married the middle, 5/25/2001, 5/25/01 female.
Now these people are dangerous.
65 transport in St. Mary's.
Transporting. Rosa Castillo's clear. No valid, Go with second.
Last name is Houston. First name Kiana, Kiyana. J. John's the middle, 7594. 7594 female. Last name Houston, first name Rashawn, RASHAWN, V Victor's the middle, 9/20/16, 9/20/2016 male.
Here was 1616 or 15? 1616. General record. Yeah, bro, I'll say one more.
Coming from is 3 doors west of the high school. The front has no gate with a driveway. The subject is outside back shooting off.
Robert, Edward, John, Adam, Nora, Edward, Adams, the middle, 12, 4, believe 93, 12, 4, 93 female.
Yeah, 1186. Jeffrey as well, thank you. Yeah.
Now, if you still believe in science, you can watch listen to this report. At the very same moment, you are not allowed to visit your doctor. It's not arbitrary, it's not capricious. There's a reason, a medical reason. Why? Other people say, you know, this is really
Go ahead. Rajon Johnson is in-house, player suspended under 1221 and 94. Yeah, or I'll be 1019.
We don't know about that. Really? Can you book with Expedia?
Can't come first if there's a 1060.
Temper.
The Expedia app has your back throughout your journey because it matters when you travel. Click to download today.
Sophisticated. Right now, the Biden administration is forcing unvaccinated to obey every requirement and vaccinated. It's a sophisticated plan. And so towering above the rest are also exempt from federal taxes, exempt from having their police defund, exempt from having to Catholic charities, federal fees, their government, section and housing agreements.
Can't come in and check all area shots right now. I'm going to check with personnel out here at Pepper's Grid. I'll let you know in a second.
Temper.
Quick off ending at Meyer gas station. There's a subject there who wants to meet PD. They be referenced to a lost wallet that he did find, but it's gone through, and he wants PD to stand by, see if they can review video. Can't come 544 on B-Boy, I'll head over there.
motorcycle rally. A cautionary tale in the age of COVID-19. Cautionary tale.
Okay, can I have a second?
Item 6.
As I suspected, this is county, we have the road, but this is county jurisdiction, and he stated that the neighbor down the street was choosing a 223.
Time for
And it would just be just music band, indeed. Let's move on. Now I've got this here from brainless people. What is this brainless person up to? They've got the gas tank there. What are they doing? So they're smoking a cigarette at the same time. Probably not the best. Probably not the best course of action there. Could explode in your face, but you know, don't live dangerously sometimes. But let's move on. So now I've got this. So this Jason Schreier person. It's pretty wild that in 2021, a new game studio still looks like this. What is he talking about? He's talking about this image here containing what looks like all white people, all white guys. And this is shocking to this Schreier person. Wild. Well, it's not really that wild considering that the majority of the US is white, and there will be plenty of places, plenty of workplaces in the United States which are populated solely by white
address, and did you want me to notify county?
On the profession, white men.
Not this time. I'm trying, I think it's 1450. I see a target out back.
Netflix or BBC.
I'll check here real quick. But
realize
he's in county, you can look out
in
here.
abundance. I know it's shocking to the SJWs. I can't believe it, but it's true. The next one is this. Calling a woman female is sexist. Leftists say it's also demeaning. Some leftists think the term female dehumanizes women. At least 2 dictionaries define woman as an adult female. But they're right. That's exactly what they are. Let's not play word games here. It's all about biology. And in this situation, I'm definitely putting my faith 100% in the science. Let's move on. So now I've got this image here. So what's this woman, what's she confused about?
Really? I am with one returning.
It says, help. My POC friends say being interested in my Irish heritage is a dog whistle.
And Tommy and Tio ambulance 71's in Route Longfellow.
You can't even.
Ambulance 71, 10-4, 1063 Longfellow.
If you got pale skin, that's how
Ambulance
stupid it's
70's
going.
all
All these bloody pissheads
Ambulance 70, 10-4.
trying to attack you for the color of the skin. They can't understand. They are blatantly being racist. And this idea that you can't be racist against white people is just an excuse for people of color, some people of color out there, to be racist against white people. That's all it is. That's all it is. So you can't be racist.
275, Samira Longfellow. 275, 10-4, show you another one.
Belittling someone, treating them differently because of the color of their skin, it's racism. There's no way around it. You can shove your supposed power imbalances right up your clacker and rotate. Let's move on. From Slate, my best friend says she's allowed to cheat on her husband as reparations for gender inequality. Let's check this out. So, God, this guy must be soy as hell. Her husband knows about it, and he wants her to stop because he's heartbroken. But he's too scared to leave because she's scared he won't get over her, so this is the best situation he'll get in life. And he's scared of custody difficulties too if they were to divorce. I'm having a really hard time not shutting this friend out of my life for good because it feels like her moral compass is just backwards. It's not just backwards, it's ass backwards. This person is a bloody fruitcake. I really feel sorry for him and have a hard time supporting her. She keeps insisting that women should be allowed to cheat, almost almost as reparations for the history of gender politics in the
Okay,
world.
Tommy, no one.
And I just can't bring myself to agree. This
That's one.
woman is absolute garbage.
I think,
The guys are sorry for sticking around. He should have kicked this piece of garbage to the curb, regardless
Okay, we
of
have you at St. Mary's.
consequences. This woman is absolute trash. Let's move on. Another one here who's trash. So this woman, let's hear what she did. So this is from Andy No, the journalist. Catherine Robbie, leader of celebrity Me Too group Time's Up Now, has resigned after it emerged she took efforts to discredit a woman who accused New York Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. So someone who was supposedly meant to be sticking up for women who had been harassed or assaulted or whatever. And it turns out she was trying to shut down someone from speaking up about Andrew Cuomo. Yeah. This actually happened. I think this perfectly encapsulates those two women we've talked about so far, but it isn't actually meant to be in relation to them. It's another story down here from the Hill. No evidence Lollapalooza was a super spreader event, Chicago officials say.
Okay, comment,
Must have been Chicago.
1063 Longfellow.
Endorsed by Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of Chicago.
53 Longfellow.
It's not a super spreader event, even though no one is wearing a mask. But anytime the other side wants to hold any type of gathering, it's a super spreader
Okay,
event.
comment,
mask
217
or
is
not.
30.
You see the bias here? I hope you do.
No, fuck,
no.
Agent 75, you can return.
For
Yes,
Andy
Mr.
No, a
Engine
photograph
75
showing a
returning.
young child next to a group of men changing into fetish gear at a Dutch Pride event has won an award for being, quote, iconic and, quote, meaningful by the event organisers. So this image here won an award. The degeneracy is, it's spreading like wildfire. Around the world, this degeneracy is, it is just weird. It is absolutely weird and disturbing, and what can you say? Jesus Christ. Speaking of men, these are the people giving you medical advice. I told you we'd see some degenerates, no doubt about that. Now with this guy, so Scott Ryan says, if your boyfriend a liberal, you single to me. The F he gonna do? Vote on it? That's gold right there. But this person says, this woman, white people are probably aliens from some loser-ass planet that they effed up. Then they traveled the universe and found the Earth and was like, oh wow, look at all these colored MFs. Let's take over the world and treat the darkest ones the worst. And now we're here in a pandemic. This is an example here of what a top tier Twitter intellectual is like. Get all these degenerate scumbags. Oh God, they're scum. The hell out of my stinking ass, or I'll throw you out.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. And the world is changing fast. We say that often because it's true. It's polite to stop it. Every morning you wake up in a brand new country. And it's hard to keep track of the change because there are so few mile markers. But here's one measure of the change. It was less than a year ago that millions of us gathered around our electronic cards in anticipation of Andrew Cuomo receiving a coveted Emmy Award. Remember that night? Even by the standards of fraudulent Hollywood ceremonies, it was a very weird moment. As a rule, politicians do not accept Emmy Awards. That would require admitting that they're actors. But Andrew Cuomo, postmodern as he is, had no problem with that. He's been playing the character from The Godfather for decades. So he took it. Here are the highlight clips they played as Andrew Cuomo received his statuette.
Flatten the curve, flatten the curve, flatten the curve. We talk about social distancing, slow the spread.
Claim your homeowner stimulus today. A home stimulus program is giving homeowners up to $3,708 every year.
That was NOP reporting. So, conspiracy theories are fueling false narratives surrounding former President Trump. Here's a new one. Some of his supporters believe he'll actually be reinstated today, while others believe he never left the White House and that he's been in office the entire time. That is despite President Biden winning the 2020 election and, of course, being sworn in earlier this year.
Anyway,
So for more
call
on this,
17 back. I'm not seeing anyone around your security office.
and this is a whole new one to me, so you gotta explain it. Why do Trump supporters, because often there's like a little nugget in there that, you know, that they build off of. So why do Trump supporters are actually
It's
QAnon?
to a residential burglary complaint at 359 South Michigan, 359 South Michigan, Trenton, Blanchett. And items stolen from a garage.
Hi, Anne-Marie. So this is really a repackaging of an old conspiracy that we've seen since at least Trump left office, but really prior as well. Of course, January 20th, we saw March 4th, different iterations of a conspiracy that say the previous administration will come back. There is validity to what we call the big lie. These are conspiracies and hoaxes that propel disinformation about election rigging. And so when it comes to dates like today, August 13th, or whenever you're viewing this, because today really doesn't matter, what matters is that the conspiracies continue to kick the can down the road. My guess, Anne-Marie, is that we have a very similar conversation in a few weeks or a few months. What matters is not the particulars of the
Can't count me until I'm 71 in Route to Riverside.
The conspiracy remains alive.
Clinton, Mount Riverside.
Receptive to newcomers, and that it keeps the true believers fired up. Why? Because this is not just the former president's base, but it is an entire new generation of people who are connected and have a totally radicalized view of American politics.
Yes, that's so true. A conspiracy theory is a living thing, constantly evolving to keep itself alive.
Any contact with him. He's apparently on the road looking for his items. They let him view the video, and it shows he set the wallet on top of his car and drove off.
New conspiracy,
So apparently,
is
items.
a word that
So you can claim it.
theorists themselves use. A number of researchers, including Mike Rothschild, who just
Yeah, but I'm just going to document it after this one.
conspiracies used to kind of describe this kind of umbrella conspiracy of all conspiracies. Look,
Yeah, pleasure.
hardcore
Tower 536.
Conspiracy believers, but it has evolved and metastasized since the inauguration. And this new theory posits us kind of criticizing or analyzing or understanding conspiracy theories. So it says that there is no reinstatement of Donald Trump that will ever happen. Why? Because he has always been president. The current administration is the invalid administration. Now, that sounds kind of ridiculous and really complicated, and it's intentionally complicated. Why? Because it allows the conspiracy to continue to move. If it's complicated, nobody can really understand it. And it's dangerous because it undermines the current actually valid administration. It perpetuates the big lie.
So, so my next question is going to be about how that fits into QAnon, but it just occurred to me that it's just so vast. I mean, we just read this awful story about this father who killed his 2 children because QAnon enlightened him, and that had to do with, like, reptile people. It is so vast. I don't even
South
know.
Rosewood Avenue, your 1017 is en route home, 10-minute ETA.
I have no idea what box it fits into. It used to fit into politics, but it seems far beyond that.
a better metaphor or a good metaphor, Emily, might be instead of thinking of QAnon as this one set of rigid, hardcore beliefs, think of it more as a tree. And every year that tree drops seeds that spread more trees. And as those trees grow, they drop more seeds. And they might look a little different than the first tree, but they're pretty similar. And they evolve and grow, and eventually they create a forest. That is a metaphor that maybe fits all of the different conspiracy theories, because a forest is full of different types of life. These conspiracies, what we really need to focus on, or what we should always focus on, are the underlying goals and
Early conduct, 1995 South Schuyler Avenue. We'll meet you at lot E. Edwards 3. 1017 that Crystal Smith wants to file a report against a female that's been harassing her and trying to fight her.
Listen, before we let you go, I gotta ask you about the census. Census came out. There are all kinds of headlines that could have sort of popped out of it, but the one that I seem to have heard many, many times, including what we reported on, was that the white population is declining. And every time I hear it,
You know what his location is right now?
I think, oh man,
I'm out on Route 50 with him, right in front of Myers. He's looking for
have you seen any
stuff that came out of his wallet.
more extremist groups?
Yeah, in the dark corners of
Yeah,
the
well,
internet.
you want to let him know, I'll come 25 with him real quick over at Myers.
What we need to remember is when it comes to QAnon and other contemporary political conspiracy theories, is that white supremacy and anti-Semitism are inherent components of those conspiracies. Job of obfuscation. They try to, in many different ways, say that they're not racist and anti-Semitic. They certainly are. Those you can find tropes that go back generations that are tied to the
David 31.
language and tactics.
Today, we contact with her.
White
She's dropping
supremacy and anti-Semitism is inherent in conspiracy theories.
Right. Dan, once again, thank
Are you using Liberty Mutual's coverage customizer tool? So you only pay for what you need. Sorry. No, you're an animal.
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
For decades, Anthony Pellicano was the best-known private detective and fixer in Hollywood. His methods were unconventional and, according to the federal government, sometimes illegal. In 2002, federal agents raided his office.
Adam 6, can you come?
Good.
And they advise somebody picked up those pit bulls, no longer needed.
10-4. I'll go back to service.
The little son of a bitch made it.
44. I'll be out at Meyer gas station. I'll be speaking with Patrick. I got one by name if you can just add it. Is it Patrick? I just ran him. Negative. It's his wife. Good. Same last name, Lincoln Edward, Union Charles King, first is Jonna, Jonna, SM middle, 815 of 68, 815 of 68, just for the call, please.
544, 511. He's just looking around for things that fell out of his wallet. I got his name and number. He doesn't need anything in case we find it. We can give him a call.
65, go ahead.
Shows on the return. St. Mary's.
So we've got an international.
Blanchette. First name is Trenton, Trenton. Middle of Lincoln, 320, correction, 32 of 88. 32 88.
They're mobile, guys. This is high tech up here. There's just something going on. There's something there. That's not, well, that's looking great. Look at it take shape. Watch at it take shape. That's probably, I know what that is. I know what that's nothing to do. But that's cool.
139.
Good.
Caller wanted to report that he lost his wallet. Desk report. He's advising his address is 1035 Stratford Drive West. It's not verifying in CAD. It's theatric when the call attaches.
Seven, followed by case 1771 1771.
7.
Can't come by 28 7 service. Good.
About 50, the roof edge.
This after-school presentation was written and narrated by Academy of Ideas. Check out their YouTube channel for more of their videos.
Okay, the 17 is home on Rosewood.
The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to justify error if error seduces. Whoever can supply them with
At 5-Star Wings, 125 West Station Street. Couple arguing in the parking lot of red Chevy Cobalt.
According to the psychologist Carl Jung,
Come on.
threat to civilization lies not with the forces of nature, nor with any physical disease, but with our inability to deal with the forces of our own psyche. We are our own worst enemies, or as the Latin proverb puts it, man is a wife to man. In Civilization in Transition, states that this proverb is a sad yet eternal truism.
No order of protection, not in progress. 543 North 9th Avenue. The 1017 is from April Thurman, advising she was being harassed third party by her child's father's current girlfriend at her job.
Which Jung termed a psychic epidemic.
It's not in progress when they get free to look for them.
That it is not pain, not earthquakes, not microbes, not cancer, but man himself, who is man's greatest danger to man. For the simple reason that there is no adequate protection against psychic epidemics, which are infinitely more devastating than the worst of natural catastrophes. In this video, we are going to explore the most dangerous of all psychic epidemics, the mass psychosis.
K12 Charles Edward 52962 clear and valid to Madonna Bedland 244 North Evergreen on a red 2015 Chevrolet Stem.
Such a phenomenon is not a thing of fiction. Two examples of mass psychoses are the American and European witch hunts of the 16th and 17th centuries.
and the rise of totalitarianism in the 20th century. During the witch hunts, thousands of individuals, mostly women, were killed, not for any crimes they committed, but because they became the scapegoats of society. In some Swiss villages, writes Francis Hill, there were scarcely any women left alive after the frenzy had finally burned itself out. When a mass psychosis occurs, the results are devastating. Jung studied this phenomenon and wrote that the individuals who make up the infected society become morally and spiritually inferior. They sink unconsciously to an inferior intellectual level. They become more unreasonable, irresponsible, emotional, erratic, and unreliable. And worst of all, crimes the individual could never stand are freely committed by the group. Madness. What makes matters worse is that those suffering from a mass psychosis are unaware of what is occurring.
Lincoln, Edward, Dave,
Just as an
George, Edward.
individual gone
First
mad
name
cannot
is Tom,
seek
Edward,
religion
Robert, Robert,
to
Edward,
observe the
Lincoln,
errors
Lincoln,
of
Middle,
his
David,
ways.
David,
So too, there is
32979,
no Archimedean point
32979.
from which those
Short
living
and
through a
service.
mass psychosis can observe their collective
Purple
madness.
1016, they've been
But what
advised on
causes
their
a
way.
mass
Statute
psychosis?
violation or protection.
To answer this question, we must first explore what drives an individual mad. While there are many potential triggers of madness, such as an excessive use of drugs or alcohol, brain injuries, and other illnesses, these physical causes will not concern us here. Our concern is with psychological, or what are called psychogenic triggers, as these are the most common culprits of the mass psychosis. The most prevalent psychogenic cause of a psychosis is a flood of negative emotions, such as fear or anxiety, that drives an individual into a state of panic. When in a state of panic, an individual will naturally seek relief, as it is too mentally and physically draining to subsist in this hyper-emotional state. While escaping from the state of panic can be accomplished through adaptive means, such as facing up to and defeating the fear-generating threat, another way to escape is to undergo a psychotic break. A psychotic break is not a descent into a state of greater disorder, as many believe, but a reordering of one's experiential world, blends fact and fiction, or delusions and reality, in a way that helps end the feelings of panic. Silvano Arietti, one of the 20th century's foremost authorities on schizophrenia, explains the psychogenic steps that lead to madness. Firstly, there is the phase of panic, when the patient starts to perceive things in a different way, is frightened on account of it, appears confused, and does not know how to explain the strange things that are happening. The next step is what Arietti calls a phase of psychotic insight, whereby an individual succeeds together by devising a pathological way of seeing reality, which allows him to explain his abnormal experiences. The phenomenon is called insight because the patient finally sees meaning and relations in his experiences. But the insight is psychotic because it is based on delusions, not on adaptive and life-promoting ways of relating to whatever threats precipitated the panic. The delusions, in other words, allow the panic-stricken individual to escape from the flood of negative emotions, but at the cost of losing touch with reality. And for this reason, Arietti says that a psychotic break can be viewed as
last name is Rockert, R-O-C-K-E-R-T. First name Emily, F10 Middle, 3690, 3690.
Vulnerable individual can trigger a psychotic break. Then a mass psychosis can result when a population of weak and vulnerable individuals is driven into a state of panic by threats real, imagined, or fabricated. But as delusions can take many forms, and as madness can manifest in countless ways, the specific manner in which a mass psychosis unfolds will differ based on the historical and cultural context of the infected society. But in the modern era, it is the mass psychosis of totalitarianism that appears to be the greatest threat. Totalitarianism, writes Arthur Versluis, is the modern phenomenon of total centralized state power, coupled with the obliteration of individual human rights. In the totalized state, there are those in power, and there are the objectified masses, the victims. In a totalitarian society, the population is divided into two groups, the rulers and the ruled, and both groups undergo a pathological transformation. The rulers are elevated to an almost godlike status,
which is diametrically opposed to our nature as imperfect beings who are easily corrupted by power. The masses, on the other hand, are transformed into the
538, 546 or so.
pathological rulers and take on a psychologically regressed and childlike status. Hannah Arendt, one of the 20th century's preeminent scholars of this form of rule, called totalitarianism an attempted transformation of human nature itself. But this attempted transformation only turns sound minds into sick minds. For as the Dutch medical doctor who studied the mental effects of living under totalitarianism wrote, there is in fact much that is comparable between the strange reactions of the citizens of totalitarianism and their culture as a whole, on the one hand, and the reactions of the sick schizophrenic on the other.
Simple.
The social transformation that unfolds under totalitarianism is built upon and sustained by delusions. For only deluded men and women regress to the childlike status of obedient and submissive subjects and hand over complete control of their lives to politicians and bureaucrats. Only a deluded ruling class will believe that they possess knowledge, wisdom, and acumen.
I'll be clear between 2 p.m. and I'll be on a report.
Top-down manner. And only when under the spell of delusions would anyone believe that a society composed of power-hungry rulers on the one hand and a psychologically regressed population on the other will lead to anything other than mass suffering and social ruin. But what triggers the psychosis of totalitarianism? As was explored in the previous video of this series, the mass psychosis of totalitarianism begins in a society's ruling class. The individuals that make up this class, be it politicians, bureaucrats, or crony capitalists, are very prone to delusions that augment their power, and no delusion is more attractive to the power-hungry than the delusion that they can and should control and dominate a society. When a ruling elite becomes possessed by a political ideology of this sort, be it communism, fascism, or technocracy, the next step is to induce a population into accepting their rule by infecting them with the mass psychosis of totalitarianism. This psychosis has been induced many times throughout history, and as Mirilu explains, it is simply a question of reorganizing and manipulating collective feelings in the proper way. The general method by which the members of a ruling elite can accomplish this end is called menticide, with the etymology of this word being a killing of the mind, and as Mirilu further explains, menticide is an old crime against the human mind and spirit, but systematized anew. It is an organized system of psychological intervention and judicial perversion through which a ruling class can imprint their own opportunistic thoughts upon the minds of those they plan to use and destroy. Priming a population for the crime of menticide begins with the sowing of fear. When an individual is flooded with negative emotions, such as fear or anxiety, he or she is very susceptible to a descent into the delusions of madness. Threats, real, imagined, or fabricated, can be used to sow fear, but a particularly effective technique is to use waves of terror. Under this technique, the sowing of fear is staggered and calm, but each of these periods of calm is followed by the manufacture of an even more intense spell of fear. And on the process goes. Or as Mirilu writes, each wave creates its effects more easily after a breathing that preceded it, because people are still disturbed by their previous experience. Morality becomes lower and lower, and the psychological effects of each new propaganda campaign become stronger. It reaches a public already softened up. While fear primes a population for menticide,
Received Friday 43 from third party.
Spread misinformation and to promote confusion with respect to the source of the threats and the nature of the crisis helps to break down the minds of the masses. Government officials and their lackeys in the media can use contradictory reports, nonsensical information, and even blatant lies, as the more they confuse, the less capable will a population be to cope with the crisis and diminish their fear in a rational and adaptive manner. Confusion, in other words, heightens the susceptibility of a descent into the delusions of totalitarianism, or as Mirilu explains, logic can be met with logic, while illogic cannot. It confuses those who think straight.
This team
The
fell
big
together
lie and
over the ship.
monotonously repeated nonsense have more emotional
South
appeal
Skyler,
than
Temple.
logic and reason. While the people are still searching for a reasonable counterargument to the first lie, the totalitarians can assault them with another. Never before in history have such effective means existed to manipulate a society into the psychosis of totalitarianism. Smartphones and social media, television and the internet, all in conjunction with algorithms that quickly censor the flow of unwanted information, allow those in power to easily assault the minds of the masses. What is more, the addictive nature of these technologies means that many people voluntarily subject themselves to the ruling elite's propaganda with a remarkable frequency. Modern technology, explains Mirlu, teaches man to take for granted the world he is looking at. He takes no time to retreat and reflect. Technology lures him on, dropping him into its wheels and movements. No rest, no meditation, no reflection, no conversation. The senses are continually overloaded with stimuli. Man doesn't learn to question his world anymore. The screen offers him answers, ready-made. But there is a further step the would-be totalitarian rulers can take to increase the chance of a totalitarian psychosis, and this is to isolate the victims and to disrupt normal social interactions. When alone and lacking normal interactions with friends, family, and coworkers, an individual becomes far more susceptible to delusions for several reasons. Firstly, they lose contact with the corrective force of the positive example, for not everyone is tricked by the machinations of the ruling elite, and the individuals who see through the propaganda can help free others from the menticidal assault. If, however, isolation is enforced, the power of these positive examples greatly diminishes. But another reason that isolation increases the efficacy of menticide is because, like many other species, human beings are more easily conditioned into new patterns of thought and behavior when isolated. Whereas Mirlu explains with regards to the physiologist Ivan Pavlov's work on behavioral conditioning, Pavlov made another significant discovery. The conditioned
Can you check the areas Dwayne and Greenview have?
in a quiet laboratory with a minimum of disturbing stimuli. Every trainer of animals knows this from his own experience. Isolation and the patient repetition of stimuli are required to tame wild animals. The totalitarians have followed this rule. They know that they can condition their political victims most quickly if they are kept in isolation. Alone, confused, and battered by waves of terror, a population under an attack of menticide descends into a hopeless and vulnerable state. The never-ending stream of propaganda turns minds once capable of rational thought into playhouses of irrational forces, and with chaos swirling around them and within them, the masses crave a return to a more ordered world. The would-be totalitarians can now take the decisive step. They can offer a way out and a return to order in a world that seems to be moving rapidly in the opposite direction. But all this comes at a price. The masses must give up their freedom and cede control of all aspects of life to the ruling elite.
Hey, 11, can you come?
They must relinquish their capacity to be self-reliant individuals who are responsible for their own lives and become submissive and obedient subjects. The masses, in other words,
Burglary to residence not in progress, 971 North Harrison Avenue, 1017, advised that an AC unit was taken out the window sometime today.
A kind of collective psychosis, whether gradually or suddenly. Reason and common human decency are no longer possible in such a system. There is only a pervasive
43, they're advising entry was made into the house and other items were taken.
Imagine to be in our midst. Thus society turns on itself, urged on by the ruling authorities. But the order of a totalitarian world is a pathological order. By enforcing a strict conformity and requiring a blind obedience from the citizens, totalitarianism rids the world of the spontaneity that produces many of life's joys.
Set a stolen license plate, 646 South Indiana, taken from a Kia Forte Silver, parked in the rear.
No matter under what name it is branded, be it rule by scientists and doctors, politicians and bureaucrats, or a dictator, breeds stagnation, destruction, and death on a mass scale. And so perhaps the most important question facing the world is how can totalitarianism be prevented? And if a society has been induced into the early stages of this mass psychosis, can the effects be reversed? While one can never be sure of the prognosis of a collective madness, there are steps that can be taken to help effectuate a cure. This task, however, necessitates many different approaches from many different people. For just as the menticidal attack is multi-pronged, so too must be the counterattack. According to Carl Jung, for those of us who wish to help return sanity to an insane world, the first step is to bring order to our own minds and to live in a way that provides inspiration for others to follow. It is not for nothing that our age cries out for the Redeemer personality, for the one who can emancipate himself from the grip of the collective psychosis and to save at least his own soul, who lights a beacon of hope for others, proclaiming that here is at least one man who has succeeded in extricating himself from the fatal identity with the group psyche. But assuming one is living in a manner free of the grip of the psychosis, there are further steps that can be taken. Information that counters the propaganda should be spread as far and as wide as possible. For the truth is more powerful than the fiction and falsities peddled by the would-be totalitarian rulers, and so their success is in part contingent on their ability to censor the free flow of information. Another tactic is to use humor and ridicule to delegitimize the ruling elite, or as Mirlu explains, we must learn to treat the demagogue and aspirant dictators in our midst with the weapon of ridicule. The demagogue himself is almost incapable of humor of any sort, and if we treat him with humor, he will begin to collapse. A tactic recommended by Václav Havel, a political dissident under Soviet communist rule, who later
43, we have an alarm coming in on Caltron.
is the construction of what are called parallel structures. A parallel structure is any form of organization, business, institution, technology, or creative pursuit that exists physically within a totalitarian society, yet morally outside of it. In communist Czechoslovakia, Havel noted that these parallel structures were more effective at combating totalitarianism than political action. Furthermore, when enough parallel structures are created, a second culture, or parallel society, spontaneously forms and functions as an enclave of freedom and sanity within a totalitarian world. Or as Havel explains in his book, The Power of the Powerless. What else are parallel structures than an area where a different life can be lived? A life that is in harmony with its own aims, and which in turn structures itself in harmony with those aims. What else are those initial attempts at social self-organization than the efforts of a certain part of society to rid itself of the self-sustaining aspects of totalitarianism, and thus to extricate itself radically from its involvement in the totalitarian system? But above all else, what is required to prevent a full descent into the madness of totalitarianism is action by as many people as possible. For just as the ruling elite do not sit around passively, but instead take deliberate steps to increase their power, so too an active and concerted effort must be made to move the world back in the direction of freedom. This can be an immense challenge in a world falling prey to the delusions of totalitarianism, but as Thomas Paine noted, tyranny, like hell, is not easily conquered. Yet we have this consolation with us, that the harder the conflict, the more glorious the triumph.
Catch me to take it.
K1386.
Go ahead, sir.
For more content,
10 on his way to a wall stolen. I'm in a 1060 area. 1000 east with you.
academyofideas.com.
10-4.
Yeah, details on page 646 up and down.
Shake hands. 13. And be advised when you speak to subject one at 1032.
1032, he was acting like he was 1032. He, middle black, tall, skinny. He was running in the 1000 block of East 4th Street, cutting through houses. He saw me on the last call and took off running and was cutting through houses. He was waving, flagging somebody else down in between houses.
From south side.
On the south side.
Robert 5, can you come?
Good.
Give me this Elisa Stevenson. She's stating that last week had a possible burglary to residents at 965 South Elm Avenue by her soon-to-be ex.
Central.
He had a report made. She's just wanting to add to that report.
Does that report made?
Number 124, show you on scene, 12, 389 East Preston. Number 5. She's not there to make a report. She's advising that he did break into her residence a week ago. She's wanting PD to ping his phone to see if he's still in the area because she doesn't feel safe.
Ten. Case 1386.
Go ahead, sir. Just in 74 hours, I'm still checking.
By the Cannon County to show 70.
Cover.
Cam 11. Into the Rosario up.
K10, your 17's coming out.
It's going to be Route 50 at I-57. I'll be out with him.
Cover 511, Route 50 and I-57. Riverside Drive. Buick truck 133-0754. 133-0754. Buick truck, a white F-150. I believe just one. Can't come. Number 523.
Fine.
One my name.
Go ahead.
We're still relocating, but I have his ID now. Registered owner. Last name Cooper. Tom Ocean. Paul Edward Robert. First name Harold. Middle name Mary. 624-56. 624-56. No way.
One 24, that was one.
Yeah, 4. Let us know when you're secure at 38. Don't worry. We just now located 200 Riverside Drive.
Emily Gonzalez out of Bradley on a 2004 Toyota.
Anything notified?
Go ahead.
Give her a call back, where she is, and open the door.
Error. She's actually 1019, and I did find the original report if you want me to attach you to that one.
I'm talking to her through the ring.
Confirm.
Okay, I'm notified too. And then to the resident.
Confirm.
Hi, 44 K. Go ahead. We have welfare check in the area, Clinton and North Street caller advising there was a 2 to 3 year old child that was calling in her vehicle, but this was about an hour ago. Not sure if it's something you guys dealt with already. 10-4. Caller says the child ran back to an address at 271 North Clinton. Yeah, 536 on it. There was
Can't go on T10. Something 10-8 from here. KLM is going to handle it. Handle the paperwork. You can attach me to my call.
Confirm.
Tag on K13.
Go ahead.
Tag, check the Pioneer Park, move outreach.
Confirm.
K-Cal 11. Can you advise incident number?
Nine 644-696.
Bradley, investigator. There's a name needs the area to repeat that needs to register, and then there's Chris Stevenson was waiting for Detective Baxter. Need to pick up items for evidence.
Sounds like Andy Garrett to handle. I'll go out and talk to them.
Six ten, Robert Five. Are you coming to South Elm?
That's where I'm in route now.
Five T 10. UP 22. I got this.
Can't come 536. 536. At 148, what's calling? She told us she wasn't home. Travel on 30 days. You want me to switch positive?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. 541.
Force here.
Yes, for. Cancom, you can go ahead with it.
10-4, last name Trooper Harold M. Mary, male white, 62456,
1099 Kankakee County aggravated battery, domestic battery strangulation. Go ahead.
Truck was secured in the parking lot. Greenhouse GEC, one adult male. Four three. It's not silver, but it's a Chevy Traverse. And the neighbor advisor that is their vehicle. 20 as well, please. Moving back to Vincent Williamson, 541 West Station, a black 2010 Chevy utility. I'll put it on the outlet. That one.
Guys, had you
Robert, 5.
that is some tasty stuff. Oh my God, my insides are on fire!
Well, last night was interesting, my friends. I'm never going to eat at a Subway sandwich shop ever again. No joke, it's the only thing that the Salt Queen and I have had food-wise that's different the last 2 days. And I spent the entire night sleeping next to a toilet. Haven't done that since college, friends. And I threw up my body weight
Can't come.
into the mostly into the toilet. And the last 24 hours have pretty wrecked me. So there's no way I can do a show tonight. I will come back strong Sunday. I'm going to fill up on Rondo. This is the electrolytes. We called the advice stars.
See that Illinois 228.
Should I come in and get an IV? No, no, can't. No,
For
we
your
don't do
shift?
services anymore because of Coop.
Where's that
Yeah,
woman at?
but I have thrown up all of my body water. Thrown up.
Last one as well. First
what can I get
Christopher.
close to that? Thrown
I'll
up.
link the middle. 513-57. 513-57.
When you ingest poison, the entire inside of your body, I'm hoping you're not eating. The entire inside of your body wants to get out through any orifice possible. It's a fucking mess. But I'm going to go drink, I don't know, an 88-gallon barrel worth of Gatorade and water and just rest the rest of the night.
Well, they're
We'll be
expired.
back Sunday, guys. So sorry, but it's one of those things. Guys, take care. Stay the fuck away from it. How Jamaica Rapino poisoned me. Jamaica Rapino poisoned
Hey,
me.
Mister, what's your location?
We'll be looking into it. I'm gonna have my DNA
See that
tested,
Illinois.
and if it's not uranium, then it's definitely poison from Megan Rapino and Subway. We're coming after them. All right, guys, take care. Bye.
Can't come on this.
Over the whole world, those are problems. Hysterical joy. World War I promised us a
Migrant encounters at the border hit a 21-year high last month, with agents detaining more than 200,000 migrants, a 419% increase over last year. Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was at the border yesterday, calling the situation complicated and insisting the border is closed. But listen to what he said privately to border officials in leaked audio Fox News has obtained exclusively.
These numbers cannot continue. We cannot get the approval we were a couple weeks ago. So we're going to make sure that doesn't happen. We're looking at if they continue like this, our people in the field can continue, our system is built for it. I know very well, during some contention, people are huge and others, how close we came to breaking, here in this sector. And it's our responsibility to make sure that never happens again. We don't get that close again.
Wow. Harris, there is a word that we have heard repeatedly from the Biden administration, and that's the word progress. Kamala Harris said we've made progress on our southern border. Alejandro Mayorkas has used that word. Jen Psaki has used that word. Progress, progress, progress. This is a very stunning, different verbiage being used in private behind the scenes.
We need transparency on what their plan looks like and what, progress actually means to them, how they're measuring it. If they're measuring progress by, we sent somebody down there and that person talked privately, at least we thought that it was mostly private, and gave people kind of an attaboy, a pat on the back, and gave us an idea of what we need to do next, that's one thing. But if progress is what it should be, and that is solving the crisis and the problems and turning off the spigot and putting on a moratorium, that's a whole different ball of wax. And so we don't know what they're looking at, which I guess is what allows the president to say to someone like Cuomo, basically a heck of a job in the middle of a scandal that caused them to quit, a sex scandal. I mean, I guess if your idea of progress is you just went there or phoned them, that's fine. But what we need now, with nearly 250,000 people coming across our border in a month's time, I mean, that's 10 times the size of most cities in America, most small towns in America. Like, if that's what we're looking for, then you're going to have to turn off that spigot. And look, Congressman Andrew Biggs from Arizona, there are several now who are banding together and saying, we need to impeach Mayorkas to force him to get the attention of the administration that progress looks like doing your job. Let's ask them. Next White House briefing. What is progress to you?
Great question. I really hope one of the correspondents asked that. Morgan, we also heard Mayorkas in this leaked audio say it's important never to understate the situation, but then in that same leaked audio, he calls the situation unsustainable. We almost lost a sector. We're going to lose the sector on the point of breaking.
Show me how to Kroger on a follow-up. No need for status.
Privately.
Sorry.
You know, Haley, I thought that leaked audio was fascinating because I heard a DHS secretary who clearly is very frustrated that he can't do his job, right? It was someone behind the scenes. I think I agree with a lot of what he was saying. He was saying that illegal border crossing should be illegal, that he knew this was a problem, that they needed to keep Title 42. And what's evident for me, the difference in that leaked audio versus what he is saying publicly, it's evident to me that he's not being allowed to do his job, that he's not being allowed to put the policies in place that he knows would stop the flow of the border. So the question is why? And I think it's because this administration truly does not care if these migrants are coming over illegally. They just don't. They don't. And Dayton Morgan has a point there. You know, he's saying privately things that would not be allowed to be said publicly in the Biden administration. Later in the audio, he went on to praise the heroic efforts of these border agents, saying, I'm going to try to get you hazard pay because they're dealing with COVID. He talked about increasing the number of agents. He talked about ICE taking a bigger role. ICE, the same ICE that the left wants to abolish. So is it just untenable for him to say these things publicly because of the AOC wing of the party that has such a grip on what's going on?
Well, I think he's saying with the Biden administration, they would rather talk than walk. They would rather try to control language, as also fascists like to do, rather than implement policies or leave policies in place that kept our borders secure and kept, again, people, drug traffickers and human traffickers from profiting off of human misery and suffering, whether it's trafficking drugs or children. So remember earlier in the year, Jen Psaki over and over wouldn't call it a crisis. She referred to it as a challenge. We could take, I guess, a sliver of solace in the fact that Secretary Mayorkas at least privately acknowledges what we can see with our own eyes in terms of the video that we've shot, in terms of what we're hearing from whether it's mayors or Border Patrol agents all up and down the border, or just looking at the numbers coming in monthly of the highest number of apprehensions in more than 2 decades. So, again, I think the only thing that could turn it around is the poll numbers have moved against this administration so much, when only 35% approve of the handling of immigration. They care more about the polls than the human suffering. So maybe this gets them off their, you know, what's to actually deal with this crisis that's affecting so many Americans.
Yeah, there's definitely motivating politicians to finally act. Dan, one agent stood up to Mayorkas saying this: for those of us who have been around long enough, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We've seen this happen before. We know exactly how to shut it down. We need to make illegal entry illegal. That sounds like common sense from someone there on the ground.
Yeah, it's always good to listen to the guys and gals on the ground. They usually know the situation best. But I think there's 3 things that this administration needs to be doing. And we talked about the first one, is to admit publicly we have a crisis at the southern border. Secondly, we've got to throw more resources at this challenge.
5-year status.
Secretary Mayorkas talked about increasing the number of Border Patrol agents, really our first line of defense by 2,000 in 2023. I think that this crisis demands more immediate action, more technology, and more people. And then third, we haven't had comprehensive immigration reform since 1986. So both parties need to come together with some bipartisan consensus on concrete measures to make the southern border safe.
Es mi niña bonita.
Even if we were to miss your pizza, result is your pizza plus one.
Good.
Go ahead.
Taylor's information for the call.
Good evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. Happy Monday.
You thought you
David, first name is Jaden John Adam David Edward Noah. G. David Middle 52702 out of Georgia. 5702 out of Georgia, male.
right off the coast of Massachusetts. Now, Bonner's place is on the ocean, naturally, unlike your oceanfront property in the city of Destin. Obama's property has been declared eternally exempt from the devastating rise in sea levels that will never be accompanied the existential crisis of climate change, which, by the way, you caused. So no matter what happens to the global climate, Obama will be safe on Martha's Vineyard, even if you continue to eat steak and use air conditioning. Ever sensitive to the feelings of the subjects, Obama did his best to downplay the size and the opulence of Saturday's event. His PR team did not mention hundreds of servants who would be there. The party, they assured us, would be nothing at all like something King Farouk might have posted in his later years. No resemblance. Barack Obama's party was merely an intimate gathering of, quote, family and friends. And in the end, that's exactly what it was. The thing is, as you can see from the photographs, Barack Obama has an awful lot of very close friends. What's interesting is who they are and who they're not. Joe Biden was not at the party. And that's weird, considering that Joe Biden and Barack Obama are like brothers, as close as two straight men can be, as Joe Biden has told us himself many times. So if you've been watching carefully through the years, you may have noticed that Barack Obama has never made that clear. He's never said a lot about liking Joe Biden. Now we know he doesn't. So who does Barack Obama like? Well, in a word, celebrities. Obama likes celebrities, lots and lots of celebrities. It was like the red carpet scene outside a lesser award show on Saturday. There was Oprah and Jay-Z, Gayle King, Tom Hanks, George Clooney, as well as a whole bunch of other people who you wouldn't recognize if they're over 30 and don't live on social media. There were a ton of them. And it was kind of a surprise to see it because Barack Obama is a genius. We know that we can be certain of it because we have heard that claimed as fact for almost 15 years now. And yet, we now know that when Barack Obama relaxes at his own house, it's not with intellectuals.
Yeah, 139 10 counter report.
It's with the kids he watches on TikTok. Obama passes around some high fives, throws on a pair of beige slip-on shoes and the world's only gray Hawaiian shirt, and gets the dance floor. It's party time. Wait a second. A gray Hawaiian shirt? Is that even legal? When you're Barack Obama, it is. The normal rules don't apply to you. Remember that this is the man whose staff referred to him as Black Jesus, totally without sarcasm. So when you're parting the waters and healing the sick, you don't get too hung up on the usual fashion regulations, or for that matter, on public health regulations. There's a global pandemic out there. You may have heard about it. And it's getting worse. The CDC tells us that the so-called Delta variant is so dangerous that we can no longer have civil liberties in America. Private property rights have been suspended. Happened last week. Our children must wear masks.
Hey, Tom, Echo 34 is the one responding to that call.
They should not be allowed to go to
Temper.
airplanes have a job without
It's going to be 617 North Chicago.
And Barack Obama supports all of that. He's for all the restrictions. But that does not mean he wants to live under those restrictions. So on Saturday, Obama's guests did not have to show their papers to get into the party. Unlike CNN employees, they didn't have to prove they were vaccinated. Unlike your kids, they didn't have to wear masks. It was like 2019 at Barack Obama's house. Like the whole pandemic thing never happened. The question is, does Tony Fauci know this? And if so, is he okay with it? That's a pressing public health question. So today we called Tony Fauci to find out. Unfortunately, he was not free to do the show. He was too busy. He's a scientist. He got into publicity. He was tied up getting a photo shoot for Teen Vogue, so he couldn't come far off. So to determine what the new rules are, we're just going to have to go with Tony Fauci's previous statement. And here's what we learned. When large groups of maskless people without vaccine passports gather in one place, it is a grave danger to America, but only when those people run Harley Davidson. On Sunday, Fauci once again scolded bikers who were gathering for an annual event in Sturgis, South Dakota. Now, these people are dangerous, Tony Fauci told us. Some of them went to community college, literally, and there are some who didn't go at all. You should be worried. Pretty much exactly what he told us last year about the Sturgis rally, that many would die. So we checked, because numbers are important on a news show, did that happen? Whatever happened to last year's Sturgis? Well, it turned out almost 500,000 people went, about 450,000. In the end, fewer than 0.1% of them got COVID. So no, millions did not die. Actually, it was fine. But Tony Fauci did not change his guidance. He's not deterred by his own bigotry and stupid predictions.
So here he was the other day warning us once again about the perils of Sturgis.
Well, I'm very concerned, Chuck, that we're going to see another surge related to that rally. I mean, to me, it's understandable that people want to do the kinds of things they want to do. They want their freedom to do that. But there comes a time when you're dealing with a public health crisis that could involve you, your family, and everyone else, that something supersedes that need to do exactly what you want to do.
Well, I'm very concerned, Chuck.
Oh, heck up. So Tony Fauci just explained, given how dangerous to public health those bikers at Sturgis are, you've got to wonder what the risk the rest of us face might be from Barack Obama's Here you have hundreds of people indoors without masks who haven't proven their vaccination status. And if the numbers tell us anything, quite a few of them were not vaccinated. Is that acceptable? Sincerely, that's an urgent public
Roger, what's this for?
You think Tony Fauci exists to answer as the highest paid public sector. But he didn't.
13's about 10 come by. I'm just going to 10 hours now here in north, southbound in the flat. Central North Greenwood.
Huge indoor events of people who haven't proven they got the shot and aren't wearing masks.
Day 13 from,
When
you
he
guys
watched his
23.
friend Muriel Bowser, who's the mayor of DC, she just did the
Yeah,
very
got
same
15,
thing.
you got to start from Caleb.
Bowser, you'll recall,
Counselor, Driver 34, you counselor. Did you say it turned on Greenwood? 600 North Greenwood in the lot? 10-4.
She's a Democratic office holder. Now, if you still believe in science and becoming slightly confused by this public health guy, you didn't watch CNN this week.
16 dash me as a alarm call.
Listen to this
Is there
report
health
from the New
room?
York Times explain why Barack Obama and his friends from TikTok can have maskless parties indoors without vaccine passports at the very same moment you were not allowed to visit your dying parents in the hospital. It's not arbitrary, it's not capricious. There's a reason, a medical reason. Why?
Other people said, this is really being overblown. They're following all the safety precautions. People are going to sporting events that are better than this. This is going to be safe. This is a sophisticated, vaccinated crowd.
Hey, now we're talking science. So when it happens at Barack Obama's 12, by the way, that was the purchase price. We're talking over $20 million house on the
Yeah, basically, we tried to make contact with
What
them.
happens there? It's not a problem because the crowd,
I'm
according
trying
to
right
the
now.
Times, as we say this, is quote sophisticated and vaccinated. And we don't know about the vaccinated because they didn't have to prove it. And again, if the numbers are right, a lot of them weren't vaccinated. Maybe more than half.
King 138 out of the jail.
Are made of water. However you find your way in, or whoever you head out with, there's so much shore to explore in Wisconsin.
We're both going to be 10A. We checked with the kids, they're just fine. And homeowners denied that they were ever out of this site.
Right now, the Biden administration is forcing unvaccinated people to obey every requirement that vaccinated people have to follow. It's the sophisticated crowd that are exempt from those. Vaccines have nothing to do with it. The question is sophistication. You should also know that the sophisticated in this country.
I did make contact with an employee. She advised everything was 10-4. I don't know why the alarm went off. Somebody is stepping off.
From having to pay their taxes. Exempt from having their police defunded. Exempt from having, say, Catholic charities move penniless immigrants into their neighborhoods and the new Section 8 housing they're being understood. They don't have to do any of that because they're sophisticated. It's nice to be sophisticated.
511 information.
Also, it's definitely bad to be unsophisticated.
Right.
Because if you're unsophisticated,
The 172 North Douglas for viral positive patient.
Instead, when you're unsophisticated, they will devote hours of coverage to
Yeah,
marketing
or
and
if you can just relay that information to fire for me.
I mean, I'm very concerned. The
I'm really 10-4 on the page.
We're spreading our wings, but I'm concerned.
10-4. Either check your cat notes or call the desk for more info.
Last year, and that's likely to be the case again
10-4.
this year.
Well, this year, Sturgis Rally attendees are proving they didn't learn anything from last year, drawing an even bigger crowd.
The Brassy Teddy, Brassy driving, Teddy drive. Y Young 820054. Y Young 820054. Red Subaru. Well, I can.
You think they'd learn? Can you imagine riding a motorcycle outside with no mask on? You'd think they'd learn, but nope.
Canton really 46 is 10-4 on Candles, and we will be en route.
Remind you that there was actually no COVID outbreak at Sturgis last year. Somehow no one has told COVID news. They're completely convinced. It was a
10-4 Robert 6, want to make sure I have your mouth. Thank you.
Right now, you'll find a very lengthy piece with this headline we're quoting. South Dakota's Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, a cautionary tale in the age of COVID-19. A cautionary tale. Cautioning against what? Believing dummies at CNN? In the piece, CNN reports with horror that there are virtually no TikTok stars this year at Sturgis at all Martha's Vineyard. Oprah's never even been to Sturgis. Instead, according to CNN, Sturgis involves, and we're quoting now, drag races, rock concerts, pub crawls, tattoo contests, and processions of Harley-Davidsons to the Black Hills mountain range. Whoa. Whoa. You know what that means, right? Public health disaster. Or, again, in the words of CNN, the Sturgis Rally had many characteristics of a super-spreading event.
Income, I was 34 and
High intensity of contact between people, potential for highly infectious individuals traveling from hotspots and events in poorly ventilated indoor environments. Not at all like what they're doing under the tent Martha's Vineyard with the TikTok.
Parks everyone South Fifth Avenue. Brianna Bonds and the owner of the residence are attempting to.
Really, you're one.
I don't know if it's verbal at the time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.
Paul. Hey, Adam. First name spelling. Union, John, William, Adam, Lincoln, Adam. Middle initials, King. Date of birth, 12/12 of 78, 12/12/78. Female.
We're going to change format a little tonight. Buckle up. Far left New York City mayor, I affectionately call him Comrade de Blasio, 2020 Democratic hopeful. Well, Bill de Blasio, to his credit, he sat down with me for an exclusive one-on-one interview. So far, he's the only 2020 Democrat brave enough to come on this program, and we commend him for that. We covered a wide
Robert, takes your moment. Sorry, you didn't have your light decorated.
Socialism, New Green Deal, police officers. No topic was off the table. Immigration, abortion, Second Amendment. We got them all in. So without further ado, buckle up. The media, you're going to love this. Part one. Do you support walls on our border? I support border security, but not walls. No walls. I don't think we need additional walls because, look, there's 11 million people here right now, Sean. This is more. Maybe, but this is what I don't get about the whole discussion bluntly on this network and a lot of other places. 11 million people are here that have been here for decades. This is the biggest don't ask, don't tell in American history. Why are we allowing ourselves to be divided by the people when in fact this already happened? Okay, how are you going already? There's no invasion. There's no
28 is Charles Edward.
90% of the heroin that comes into this country crosses the southern border. Fentanyl, a big percentage crosses the southern border. We're losing 300 people a week. You know all about the opioid epidemic in a big city like where you hide it every day. But they have to. We have to save these kids. And so my question is between, I think the 99% of people that want to come here want what we have, and I don't blame them. 1% though, 2-year period, there were 4,000 homicides, 30,000 sexual assaults, 100,000 violent assaults by illegal immigrants.
Going to the lockout.
1%. I want to be very clear. My question to you.
Waiting for a train right now.
If you don't have the wall, how are you going to stop them? If people get in with a wall, without a wall, that's not how you do it.
Come to the PD, give me a ride somewhere.
Border security mechanism. There's every tool you need, and you
Yeah, 10-4. You want me to get you now or do the lockout and then come get you? Yeah, come around this way and
we have 170.
then you can go to the lockout.
Someone's convicted of them, they're undocumented. They're out here. Okay, but we will allow communities to
I'll
make
be in the
sure
web
we
now.
find people who have done things inappropriate. You sort of have a sanctuary city, and those are
And come 540, you can attach me to the lockout, I'll grab it.
Tower 540.
Bill de Blasio has nearly 500,000 illegal immigrants in his city. Those are the facts. Those are the census facts. And you said New York taxpayers pay for their health care. John, right now, this is not
Yeah,
a show, and you have to
Jason, I got one by name Gildy.
I'm being,
Go ahead.
True. No, where did I get their health care? Did you not say that? Wait, I'm being, well, I'll just want to be dishonest.
It'd be David Adams, Victor Ivan Sam. First name is Jonathan. That'd be John, Ocean, Nora, Adams, Tom, Henry, Adam, Nora. Middle is E. Edwards. Date of birth is 10-10-89. 10-10-89. No.
Because I don't have a doctor, and who's paying for it? The same taxpayers. The same taxpayers. It's a simple question. The answer
Yeah,
is
around
yes,
510.
New York
13
City, why not have an honest conversation about the reality? Here's my thought. Just to be clear, 500,000 illegal immigrants in New York City should get free health care. That's what you just said. Everybody who lives here should get the health care they need so that everyone can be healthy, not get each other sick, even if they're illegal. Even if they're undocumented, I'll tell you why. Because otherwise, what's happening? People go to the emergency room, the taxpayers pay anyway.
Tower 541.
So these are human beings who are part of our economy, who are part of our neighborhood, right? Every neighborhood in the city. There's not a sign that says who's undocumented. I got your answer. I understand. Now I want to know what two-way street. So do you agree that people go to the emergency room when they're sick? I think that we should, and we end up paying for it anyway. If you want to change the laws, my answer is I believe we should. No nation. We're a constitutional republic. I revere our constitution. I revere the rule of law. And I understand, I think, why 99% of people want to be here because they want what we all take for granted that God has given us. And I want to have a wall to stop the heroin. Let me finish. Stop the cartels. Yeah, but you're not answering my question. I am answering the question. I want the criminal elements to be vetted, and I want a big door that says, welcome to our family, welcome to our country. And you want comprehensive immigration reform? Well, I'm telling you, no, but do you want comprehensive immigration reform? I'm not letting all people here right now. After we build the wall, come on. What about after we build the wall here? After we build the wall and secure our borders, my answer is absolutely. We give those highly coveted slots to the people that respect our laws. This is why it's such a charade. You got 11. It is a charade. Stop it. You're doing, and what your network does too often is try to distract from my network. By the way, there are people on my network that don't like a single word I say. What are you talking about? What lines I agree or not? Too much of the time, Fox and News are trying to take people's minds off of the fact that they're being screwed economically by the 1%. We're going to get to that. No, but you're not answering. No, but
We're 34, you said?
which isn't really lightning. We're going to get back to that.
Ten four.
Tell me why it's okay that
Ten four.
they're paying less and less in taxes. Now that we're back to the late round, I want to ask you a question, and we're going to get back. You promise to me you're going to answer that
Rob, one just will show you returning the same.
I promise you. You're watching. You're watching. You're sitting right here. You're watching yourself. You're watching the monitor right there. You're watching yourself. I'm watching. All right. You came and with some of New York's finest. If you want to work every day, the people that are with you to protect you, which I fully support, because this is dangerous times, and they are our police officers. And they're all of them. And we have a big debate because they are. I've been a responsible gun owner my entire life. Somebody calls my radio.
Okay, so I'll be clear. Ring one.
Which gun do you want to get trained in the use of? And what safety courses are you going to take? So I'm serious. My mom was a prison on Long Island. And for 25 years, 16-hour shifts every night. God bless her. And she had a loaded gun next to her bed. And she made sure that dopey 10-year-old kid, me, knew how to handle a firearm. So my question is, you have that. Hollywood stars can afford.
Yeah, you come back with 128.
Should every New Yorker, should every American.
Temporary 28, 609, Adam, 107. 609, Adam, 107, temporary.
Raise their property to have a gun in their home to protect themselves. Okay. You do. You're in the safest big city in America. Let me ask you that. I'm prefacing that. You preface all the time. You're the safest big city in America. Finest police force in America.
54609, Adam, 107 is clear and valid. Brian Jones on a Charger, out of Kankakee.
I believe right now what's wrong in this country is not that people have rights around guns, it's that there are no gun safety measures like background checks, like background checks. I don't buy a gun without getting a background check. You don't have sufficient background checks. I have a gun carry license in New York. I have to walk I'll give out the whole country. Well, and by the way, ask the NYPD and they'll tell you they believe in strong gun laws to keep officers and civilians safe. My question is simple. Does every New Yorker...
It's the 353 Centennial Court for a 65-year-old female who fell possible shoulder injury.
Should they have the same safety you have? And if somebody breaks into their house...
It's in the trunk and in the vehicle. The driver is a male white.
Everyone deserves to be safe. And the answer is not for everyone to have a firearm anymore. That's for every kid. The answer is no. I believe people have rights, but I also believe we need background checks. We need assault weapon background. If you have it for purchase, okay. Because right now it's happening, and every American has a shotgun in their house. Every New Yorker. We're not dodging all the guns that are out there that are threatening our officers and civilians alike. I am asking you, should every New Yorker have the same protection you believe people have rights? I believe we need gun safety laws, and should they have the right to a gun? We have a police department, and I've added 2,000 officers on patrol in the city in the last few years. Right. That is making it safer all the time. Should the best way to protect
1999 now. No, where's Clear Valley?
Have a perfect mental health record.
That's what, 10-8, that's right. No, we're 5 foot.
Agree that they have a right to have safe. Do you agree they have a right to have a gun in their house?
Yeah, so
to be safe. Great. Do they have a right to a gun? I'm telling you what I think.
Hey, Tom.
I'm answering you. The safest way to do it. We're not.
Something Dr. Service, one written warning for equipment. You show me around.
The cops, even if it's a great response time, you might.
Jason loaded.
Again, we just have a different. You're protected. You
Yeah,
have a team around you. Does every New Yorker, if somebody breaks into their house, they're good people, the law-abiding people, pay their taxes, obey the rules, pass the background check, should they have a right to a gun in their house? Yes or no? I ain't buying what you're selling. You're not buying.
I got 536 church stuff.
My answer is my answer. You don't get to tell other people their answers. Should a New Yorker have the right to a gun in their house? The question here is how do we make...
Me and Broadway pulling over in front of Blanchett Pools. I'm in a white Tesla. No registration.
They're everywhere. They can't be everywhere. They're threatening our officers and civilians.
How far in front of Blanchett Pools on Broadway?
That have perfect mental health records and willing to go through background checks should not be allowed to have a gun in their home. I just don't play by your rules. Should they be allowed to
Over 540.
Here's what everyone, let people define themselves. You want to hear the truth? Can you have a gun is a simple question.
Yeah,
If they're law-abiding, can they have a gun? You are trying to set up a reality where you get to paint a picture on your own terms. It doesn't work that way. Mr. Mayor, those guys over there, what did I say to you guys? I said, thank you for what you
Yeah, 139.
They protect you. You deserve to be protected. You're the mayor of the city. Everyone deserves to be the biggest one. Everyone deserves to be protected. That's what we're doing.
Okay, I'm facing out 28 for you.
We can't have a gun again. Ask law enforcement if they want everyone to have a gun. That is not the way to keep everyone
81216 for North,
safe. I
81216.
appreciate you being here, but that is a simple question, and you are dodging and ducking, and you're flipping. And I believe. All right, that's fair enough. You say it's in the wrong hands. Well, I think it's in the wrong hands. So here's Sean Hannity, that's been financially independent since he's 10. You know all the jobs I've done. I heard it. For what, 25 years. Do you think my question has been fair? Do you think that my money...
81216 is clear and expired to Larry Saint, 2200 East Court Apartment 203, and a 2005 Ford four-door. The attached 27 is valid.
Do you think right now your viewers feel that it's okay that the wealthy have as much as they have?
We're out with this vehicle is unoccupied, windows down. 28 are removed.
You think that's okay? No, corporations pass taxes on the people. Corporations that pay no taxes in America. Listen, Amazon's one. Listen, all I know is that's okay. All I know is this. I've always known in my career, and we learned it with Lois Lerner, that I better damn well pay my taxes, because if I don't, I have no doubt that Obama Biden would have read every tax year. Here's what I will say. The kid that started out with no money and started in Radio 4 for free and made $19,000 a year. And I left my home in New York and I went 5 years Rhode Island, 5 years California, 2 years Alabama, 4 years Georgia, and I got lucky. And I got hired here. And I'm asking, you still want 70 cents of every dollar I have, and then you want more if I save too much, and then you want more when I drop dead. And I think you're stealing from them. I want working class people and middle class people to have a better life. So I deserve that money because you say it's in the wrong hands. So I have my money. This is my general view of the world. You got there with the help of very friendly government policy. I'm not taking away your work. I'm not taking away your work. But the rich have gotten richer for 40 years and paid less and less in taxes. Corporations in America pay nothing in taxes. That's not America. That's not America where the chosen few get all the money. Corporations, when you raise their taxes, what do you think they do? I think the problem with your whole line here is that you seem to think the status quo is okay. And I think corporations don't raise taxes. I don't think your viewers think the status quo is okay. What do you think corporations do when
We spoke to the owner of that vehicle. He's in there buying food for his kids. There's no kids in the trunk. No problem. Back and forth.
they pass those costs on? Do you think it's okay? Do you think it's okay that CEOs making 300, 400 times? Listen, let me tell you, workers in their companies are paid. You're talking to the wrong guy. I'm a blue collar guy that worked 25 years in Do you think it's okay? There are CEOs in America. You know what I'm most happy about? 200, 400 times what an average worker in a company is making. I am so happy. You think that's okay? That I gave you the numbers.
I'll have a Michigan temporary 28.
The New York Mets had Ray Sadecki, Tom Seaver, Jerry Kuzman, Duffy Dyer, Jerry Brody, Eddie Harrelson. You know that?
458-6360 David.
¿Sabías que podrías ahorrar hasta $200 al mes con paneles solares?
458-6360 David.
Guau, qué hostia está pegando. ¡Ah!
458-636 David out of Michigan is showing clear and valid through 9/8/22. An Anne Marie Mariello Residue, Watervliet, Michigan. Tesla Model S.
Temple. One by name.
Good.
Last name spelling Mary Adam Union, Robert Ida, Edward Lincoln Ocean. First name is Blake. Middle P. Paul. 8/16/2004. 8/16/2004. Illinois.
Canton Bradley, 46 Fremont, St. Mary's.
Jacob 39 stop.
Ten 446.
Four 442-402. It's going to be on a light blue Ford Taurus. We're not going to.
Tower 539 Bradley, Yorktown. $536. It's clear and valid with one passenger limitation.
10-4. No problem. I'll get a warning.
Oh.
On Tuesday, August 10th, a strong hailstorm caused damage in several
Um, 18530 West, 3000 North.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, come 539. 1 minute. Name is Smith. First name is Julie. A. Adam Middle. 11/8/65. 11/8/65.
$21 Kevin. Her address is 905 South Dearborn.
This Area 17 Ground Zero on American History Z. As you heard at the beginning of this clip from President Trump as he stepped off of Air Force One in Wisconsin, was told of the death of
Sam Adam, I don't know Tom. First name is Larry Lincoln Adams, Robert Young. Middle is Ben Mary. His date of birth is 3/11/58. 3/11/58.
So despite Congress, it just sends you
Meyer, Robert 7, that's in 4. It's going to be lot 233 once you get there.
Lot 233. Okay.
Absolutely razor sharp. He scoured the globe and find
Make a long stretch, making his way up now. Yeah, he's clean out his car.
Hey everybody, how's it going? So recently I covered this new feature that is being used to detect some content that is going to start doing more client side and server side in a series of videos. This is my video discussing it. This is my video discussing someone else's dissenting opinion that I imagine would disagree with me heavily. And this is me talking to a software engineer who's looking to get their doctorate.
And the great fighters of Afghanistan. The Taliban regime is coming to an end.
By the end of this year, the transition will be complete, and Afghans will take full responsibility for their security, and our combat mission will be over.
What are we going to say? We'll stay for another 21 years, and we'll stay for another 50. The whole thing is ridiculous. We're bringing the troops back home from Afghanistan. Is a Taliban takeover of Afghanistan now inevitable?
No, it is not.
But it is happening. The Taliban is taking control of Afghanistan. Currently, as of today, 240 districts the Taliban controls. And there are some contested areas, but Kandahar, the second largest city, is falling. Raz, Gaza,
Plantation loaded.
and now the U.S. is putting more troops in, Marines and other troops, to be able to get Americans out of Afghanistan.
Yes, early 46 will be out at St. Mary's.
20 years. And now this is how this is going to end in Afghanistan. Let's bring in our panel. Ben Domenech, publisher of The Federalist. Mara Liasson, national political correspondent of National Public Radio. Washington Post columnist Mark Thiessen. Mark, you wrote some speeches at the beginning of
36 or so.
the war and throughout. It is, just talking to General Keane and others, it's tough to watch.
It is tough to watch, and you and I traveled together to a bunch of those cities you just named. When you were a Pentagon correspondent and I was working in the Pentagon for Secretary Rumsfeld, and it's heartbreaking to see what's unfolding over there. But if you want to understand just how pathetic this administration's Afghan policy is, here's a story. Here's the lead of a story that's on the New York Times website right now. Just went up a couple hours ago. American negotiators are trying to extract assurances from the Taliban that they will not attack the U.S. embassy in Kabul if the extremist group takes over the country's government and ever wants to receive U.S. foreign aid. The Biden administration is dangling U.S. foreign aid to the people who aided and abetted the attacks of September 11, 2001, if they please, pretty please, don't attack the U.S. embassy. That is probably, in my entire career in Washington, that is the most pathetic thing I've ever seen. when an expression of weakness I've ever seen when it comes to U.S.
Well, to that point, the messaging, Mara, changed dramatically over 24 hours. I had Admiral John Kirby, a Pentagon spokesperson, on last night, and he was saying that the part of the give and take is to have the Taliban understand being a pariah in the world. Here's that exchange.
The Taliban continues to try to advance in the country through brutality, through oppression, through fear. Those kinds of tactics are not going to lead to the level of legitimacy that they say they want from the international community.
But that's why we continue to. I mean, and do you think the Taliban is going to say we want to be legitimate in the world's eyes? That's going to be the threat that makes them stop beheading or executing people?
But they've said for themselves that they want legitimacy. And
Okay, because you can show Robert Ford covering for sure.
They're going to have to
Robert Ford as well, and that's
negotiated political settlement.
But clearly, Mara, that's not happening. And now U.S. troops are going in. And that's a danger in and of
21, I'm 23 at